Chapter 89. He didn't know what was going on with Xiao Baogua. He didn't see him eat spirit pills to recover his spirit power. How could he consume so much energy? If Wang Daoyuan hadn't drunk spirit wine many times, he wouldn't have been able to hold on. After escaping for hundreds of miles, Xiao Baogua was still chasing behind. Wang Daoyuan was also helpless. He had never seen such a consumption of energy. A cultivator at the 8th level of Qi disciple, his spirit power was stronger than Zhang Deshang, a foundation establishment cultivator. Coupled with his powerful whip technique, except for the fact that he couldn't fly on his sword, he could be treated as a foundation establishment cultivator. Wang Daoyuan continued to move forward in the water, suddenly finding a big hole on the shore in front of him. He probed into the hole with his spiritual sense, only to see that the hole was extremely narrow, only one person could barely pass through. Inside the hole was a winding path, and in the depths of the hole was a space with a radius of 5 feet. In the hole lived a first-rank upper-grade python. Its aura was not very strong. It was only at the 7th level of Qi disciple, and it seemed to be sleeping. The entrance of the snake hole was underwater. The cave was hidden. It was just the right time to take out all his trump cards and smash this old guy to death. Escaping like this was not a solution. It would be troublesome if he encountered another monster. It was better to hide. If he could hide, he would hide. If he couldn't, he would use all his trump cards to kill this old guy. He used the invisibility technique, used the breath-concealing talisman, and directly drilled into the hole. The python was sleeping and didn't notice him immediately. He naturally wouldn't take the initiative to provoke the python, and went to a corner farthest from the python to hide. Xiao Baogua had been following behind Wang Daoyuan, but the target suddenly disappeared. He searched around and soon found the cave where Wang Daoyuan was hiding. With a simple sweep of his divine sense, he found the sleeping python, but he didn't find Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan used the breath-concealing technique at this time. He could avoid the detection of spiritual sense to a certain extent, unless the spiritual sense cultivation was higher than his, otherwise, it would be difficult to find his existence. Xiao Baogua did not easily let go of this cave. After all, the target was lost here. Only this cave could hide people around. He didn't hide his aura, and drilled straight into the cave. A big living person drilled into the cave, naturally alarmed the python in the cave. The python woke up and attacked Xiao Baogua. Xiao Baogua didn't be polite with the python. With a whip, he directly broke the python's hard scales, leaving a wound more than a foot long and an inch deep. Under the pain, the giant python's ferocious nature erupted as it crazily pounced towards Xiao Baogua. It was a pity that this giant python was only an ordinary high-grade level 1 demonic beast. It did not have a high-grade demonic beast bloodline, nor did it awaken any innate skills. Its strength was not considered strong among its peers. How could it be compared to Xiao Baogua, who had a super-strong combat power? Soon the python's tutu, with the Qi, the python, Xiao Baogua held the whip in his hand and said, "Young man, isn't it time to come out? There's no point in hiding anymore. Come out and accept your death." Wang Daoyuan showed himself, and immediately stuck 5 earth armor talismans on his body. 5 layers of earth yellow armor covered his body, and he smiled. "Senior, why are you forcing me?" Xiao Baogua smiled. "You're here indeed. People die for wealth, and birds die for food. You have a lot of talismans on you, and a level 2 defensive magic weapon. Do I need a reason to kill you?" Wang Daoyuan chuckled and said, "I asked too much. I didn't want to kill you, but you're courting death." Before he finished speaking, 3 golden sword talismans flew out, heading straight for Xiao Baogua. To Xiao Baogua, this kind of attack was nothing. He quickly waved his whip and scattered the 3 small golden swords. He said, "You're so young yet you have such big words. You want to take me down with just a high-grade grade 1 spirit talisman?" Wang Daoyuan threw out another 5 golden sword talismans. Xiao Baogua smiled contemptuously and waved his whip again, hitting the small golden swords. At this time, Wang Daoyuan activated the soul-extinguishing bell hidden in his sea of consciousness, and a brass bell appeared out of thin air. Previously, he was afraid of exposing the soul-extinguishing bell outside, and Qiyun's enemies would come looking for him. In this underground cave, there was no need to worry about being exposed at all. He injected his consciousness and spirit power into the soul-extinguishing bell, and it emitted a golden light, enveloping Wang Daoyuan. At the same time, a loud bell rang. Xiao Baogua was currently waving his whip to hit the small golden swords. He did not expect Wang Daoyuan to have a sound wave magic weapon, and without any preparation, he took the soul-extinguishing bell's attack head-on. This was not the wilderness, but the underground cave. The sound wave hit the surrounding walls and then reflected back, causing many injuries to Xiao Baogua. Although these reflected sound wave attacks were far less powerful than the first wave, they won in number. After about 10 breaths, the cave quieted down. Xiao Baogua lay on the ground with his eyes rolled back, foaming at the mouth, and his body occasionally twitched a few times. It seemed that his injuries were not light, and the giant python directly died. Originally, he wanted to directly end Xiao Baogua, but on second thought, this old boy had a lot of secrets. It was a pity to kill him like this, and it was more suitable to refine him into an avatar. Taking advantage of the fact that his soul was now seriously injured and had not yet recovered, he gave him a soul-splitting blade. Wang Daoyuan condensed the soul-splitting blade, almost exhausting all of his consciousness. The soul-splitting blade pointed straight at Xiao Baogua's forehead. At this time, Xiao Baogua was still unconscious and had no strength to resist. The soul-splitting blade shot directly into his sea of consciousness between his eyebrows, destroying his mind and consciousness as easily as blowing off dust. This surprised Wang Daoyuan. Xiao Baogua had previously controlled a Tier 2 magic tool with ease, so his divine sense cultivation shouldn't be low. But now, under the soul-splitting blade, he actually couldn't withstand a single blow. Could it be because he was seriously injured by the soul-extinguishing bell and lost the ability to resist? If so, Wang Daoyuan could use the soul-extinguishing bell to injure Qi Yun, and then use the soul-splitting blade to destroy his consciousness without worrying about his own soul being damaged. Of course, now was not the time. At this time, his spiritual sense was almost non-existent, and he was unable to split his soul into an avatar. He could only take out a few pots of jade butterfly orchid from the space, take a spirit cleansing pill and a rejuvenation pill, and meditate to restore his spiritual sense and heal his injuries. 3 hours later, Wang Daoyuan's spiritual sense had basically recovered, and he once again condensed the soul-splitting blade, cut a small part of his soul, and after nourishing it for a while, merged it with his avatar. With the previous experience, this time he cast the secret technique much faster, and it only took him 1 day to complete the whole process. He put his avatar into the spirit bead space and seized the time to heal his injuries. 3 days later, his physical injuries were completely healed, and his soul's injuries were also stabilized. In the spirit bead space, with the help of the 20-fold flow of time, his soul had already completely taken control of his avatar, and now began to take care of the affairs in the space. Wang Daoyuan used his avatar to spy on Xiao Baogua's memories and learned about Xiao Baogua's life experience. Xiao Baogua was born in a mortal family, and when he was young, he was apprenticed to a rogue cultivator. That rogue cultivator was not an ordinary person, and he was a penta-spirit root cultivator who cultivated a 5-element cultivation method. This cultivation method was obtained by the rogue cultivator when he explored the cave of an ancient cultivator. For a penta-spirit root cultivator, cultivating a 5-element cultivation method was better than cultivating a single-element cultivation method. However, cultivating a 5-element cultivation method was not only slow, but it also consumed a lot of resources. That rogue cultivator cultivated for over 100 years, but his cultivation was only at the 7th level of qi refining. Seeing that his lifespan was not long, and he had no hope of reaching foundation establishment, he wanted to find a successor to pass down his cultivation method. In the end, he found Xiao Baogua, and Xiao Baogua was also a penta-spirit root cultivator, so he was just right to inherit his mantle. Chapter 90. That rogue cultivator accepted Xiao Baogua and taught him a cultivation technique. Not long after Xiao Baogua entered the qi refining stage, he passed away. His life savings were left to Xiao Baogua. Among them were some spirit stones, a 5-elements cultivation technique, a 5-elements origin technique, a level 2 middle grade long whip, and a treasure map. Xiao Baogua's master had obtained both the cultivation technique and the long whip when he had explored the ancient cultivator's abode. The treasure map was personally drawn by him. The map recorded the location of the ancient cultivator's abode, as well as the route he took to explore the abode. That ancient cultivator was also a penta-spirit veins cultivator. He combined many cultivation methods and secret techniques to create a cultivation method that was suitable for cultivators with penta-spirit veins. Furthermore, he himself had used this technique to cultivate to the Jindan realm, and was known as the 5-element spiritual master. Of course, The five-element spiritual master's cultivation method was not the same as Zhao Baogua's primordial five elements technique. The primordial five elements technique was the original version of the technique created by the five elements Taoist. Later on, based on this foundation, he used other cultivation methods and secret techniques to improve them. Finally, he created a cultivation method that could allow a cultivator with five spiritual roots to reach the golden core stage or even the Yuanying stage. The five-element spiritual master failed to break through the Yuanying realm and passed away in a secret realm. Before he died, he wanted to find a successor, but unfortunately, there was no time. He could only leave his legacy in the place where he died. The five elements Taoist's inheritance was divided into two parts. The first part was the five elements primordial technique and the rank 2 medium-grade long whip. Any cultivator with five spiritual roots would be able to obtain this inheritance. However, in order to obtain the golden core inheritance of the five elements Taoist, one must first cultivate the primordial five elements technique to the great success stage. Zhao Baogua and his master had never been able to meet this requirement in their entire lives. Zhao Baogua's level 2 magic whip was also made by the five elements Taoist. The long whip was called the Five Dragons Soul-Chasing Whip, and it was the work of the five-element spiritual master. He hunted down 5 rank 2 giant pythons and used their tendons as the main material. These 5 giant pythons belonged to the 5 elements, and together with a few 5-element spirit items, he refined the 5 dragon soul-chasing whip. Because the 5 elements primordial art and the 5 dragon soul-chasing whip came from the same source, they complemented each other and had a high compatibility. For those who cultivated the 5 elements primordial technique, the 5 dragon soul-chasing whip was more powerful and consumed less spiritual energy. This was also one of the reasons why Zhao Baogua could persist for such a long time despite his frequent high-intensity attacks. Another reason was that the primordial 5 elements art focused on building the foundation. In the process of cultivating the primordial 5 elements art, one would constantly expand and strengthen one's dantian and meridians. Therefore, Zhao Baogua's dantian was much larger than other cultivators of the same level, and his spiritual power was also much stronger than others of the same level. When the 5 elements primordial art was cultivated to the realm of great success, whether it was the dantian, meridians, or the amount of spiritual power, they had all reached the limit of a chi refining cultivator. The gap between them and ordinary cultivators who had just reached the foundation establishment stage was very small. The cultivation speed of penta spirit roots cultivators was already slow. In addition, the primordial 5 elements art focused too much on the foundation. Without a large amount of resources, it was impossible for them to cultivate to the realm of great success in their lifetime. In fact, this was also the method that the 5 elements spiritual master used to choose his successor. Those who could cultivate to the realm of great success were either good at earning resources. Such people's intelligence was definitely not bad, and they would live for a long time. Or they had a good family background or great opportunities. Such people did not need to worry about resources and had a bright future. Of course, spending a lot of time and resources to cultivate the primordial 5 elements art also had great benefits. Cultivating to the realm of great success could increase the success rate of foundation establishment. As for the specific increase, it varied from person to person. At most, it could increase the success rate by 30%, and 1.5 foundation establishment pills could be saved. Moreover, because this technique strengthened the cultivator's body from the inside out, if a cultivator did not have a foundation establishment pill and failed to reach the foundation establishment stage, it would generally only damage one's meridians and dantian, and the probability of life being in danger was not high. Zhao Baogua was also a capable person. He knew that cultivating the primordial 5 elements art to the realm of great success required a large amount of resources, and he himself did not have the talent to learn the 100 arts of immortal cultivation, so he did the work of master profiteer. He bought pills, talismans, magic tools from the clear glass market and sold them at a high price to the Green Willow region. Then he bought precious spiritual herbs and ores at a low price in the Green Willow region and sold them at a high price to the clear glass market. Selling goods from both sides, he earned a lot of resources over the years. If he was not a penta spirit roots cultivator, with the large amount of resources he earned, he would have already reached the foundation establishment stage. Even so, he still had a chance to reach the foundation establishment stage. Although Zhao Baogua looked very old, in fact, he was not very old. He was only 69 years old, and among the cultivators, he could only be considered a middle-aged man. In his lifetime, he still had a high chance of cultivating the primordial 5 elements art to the realm of great success. Although after 70 years old, his qi and blood began to decline, and the success rate of reaching the foundation establishment stage decreased, but with the support of the primordial 5 elements art and the foundation establishment pill, even after 100 years old, he still had a high chance of reaching the foundation establishment stage. Besides, if he could really cultivate to the realm of great success, he could inherit the legacy left behind by the 5 elements spiritual master. With the legacy of a golden core cultivator, the problem of reaching the foundation establishment stage would not be big. After prying into Xiao Baogua's memories, Wang Daoyuan could not suppress the excitement in his heart. The primordial 5 elements art and the legacy of a golden core cultivator were simply tailor-made for him. With the space in the spirit pearl, he could have as many resources as he wanted. Wang Daoyuan originally wanted to reach the foundation establishment stage first, and then switch to the cultivation method, but now he had to switch ahead of time. In the whole of Beiyuan Xiuxian, he was afraid that he could not find a more suitable legacy for him than the 5 elements spiritual master. Switching to the cultivation method should be done sooner rather than later. Wang Daoyuan intended to wait for the clan leader and the people of the Green Willow province to complete the negotiations, and then start the switch. Xiao Baogua's value was not only this, he had decades of experience in profiteering, and he had the connections and channels to resell resources. If the clan could completely take over these connections and channels, coupled with the effect of the Spirit Pearl space, their annual income would most likely double. The 5 elements spiritual master's legacy and Xiao Baogua's connections were not urgent, and needed to be considered in the long run. Xiao Baogua had 2 storage bags hanging on his body. For a person like him who was good at currying favor, and was also a rogue cultivator without family and employment, he definitely had a lot of good things on him. He opened the first storage bag, which was full of pills, talismans, magic tools and the like, but unfortunately they were all first rank. Although the value of a single item was not high, but the quantity was large. Hundreds of first-rank pills, hundreds of first-rank high-grade talismans, more than 30 first-rank magic tools. All of these things added together would cost at least 10,000 spirit stones. Opening the second storage bag, there were not many things in the storage bag: a few jade slips, a long whip, a treasure map, and a second-rank low-grade pill furnace. The most frightening thing was that there were more than 100 middle-grade spirit stones. This was equivalent to more than 10,000 low-grade spirit stones. Xiao Baogua was really rich. The savings from decades of reselling resources, other than the daily consumption for cultivation, the rest should be here. This second-rank low-grade pill furnace. It was really a coincidence. Wang Daoyuan wanted to learn alchemy. Everything was ready. Only a pill furnace was missing. It was just that good pill furnaces were expensive, and the clan was in urgent need of spirit stones, so he was not willing to buy one. He did not expect Xiao Baogua to send one. He saw that this pill furnace was purple-red. It should be refined from the second-rank middle-grade purple sun copper. The furnace body was engraved with a fire phoenix. He pried into Xiao Baogua's memories and learned that this pill furnace was called Fire Phoenix Purple Sun Furnace. A Foundation Establishment rogue cultivator in the Green Willow region asked him to buy it. It was worth more than 4,000 spirit stones, equal to 3 magic tools of the same rank. The jade slips recorded the 5 elements mixed yuan technique, the 5 dragon soul chasing whip, and several spells. Chapter 91. Wang Daoyuan packed up Xiao Baogua's belongings and put the giant python's corpse into his space, handing it over to his 2 doppelgangers to deal with. This giant python was also a poor python. It was a dignified high-grade rank 1 demonic beast, but there was nothing valuable in its cave. After leaving the cave, he discovered that he wasn't far from Mirror Iron Mountain. The harvest this time was huge, so he could give some things that he didn't need to the patriarch for the time being. Especially these 100 or so mid-grade spirit stones. After giving them to the patriarch, the total number of spirit stones in the clan would exceed 60,000. Obtaining a foundation establishment pill could be said to be a cinch. In order to avoid exposing his whereabouts, he didn't choose to go ashore. Instead, he continued to use cloud mist escape in the water. Once he found the underground river where the spiritual spring cavern was located, he followed the flow of the river upstream. After entering the Spirit Spring Cavern, he was shocked. It had only been a few days, but the cavern had changed greatly. The originally uneven ground had been smoothed out, and there were more than 6 acres of spirit fields. All kinds of spirit herbs had been scattered in the spirit fields, and some had already sprouted. In the middle of the newly opened spirit fields, A new canal was dug to irrigate the spirit fields with spirit spring water. There were also many jade butterfly orchids planted on both sides of the canal. Seeing his shocked expression, Wang Shi proudly asked, "How is it? Your uncle did well, right?" Wang Daoyuan didn't answer. He directly took out a purple gold grass and waved it in front of the 12th uncle. Wang Shui's eyes widened. He swallowed his saliva and shouted in shock, "Purple gold grass, it's still alive!" His shout startled the patriarch who was meditating beside the spirit spring. Patriarch Wang Jian was also extremely shocked when he saw the purple gold grass in Wang Daoyuan's hand. "Daoyuan, where did this purple gold grass come from?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "I went out to see if there was an ambush near the meeting place. I also crossed the border of the sky/mountain range and went in to search for spirit items. I found a clump of purple gold grass. I still have some here." After saying that, Wang Daoyuan took out another 10 or so purple gold grass. There was still a clump of soil on the roots. Wang Jian excitedly took the purple gold grass. With the purple gold grass, the clan will no longer lack low-grade level 2 spirit talismans. "Daoyuan, you've done a great service. I'll give you 3,000 clan contribution points for these purple gold grass." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Fifth great uncle, don't be in such a hurry to calculate the contribution points. There are still some good things that you haven't taken out yet." After saying that, he took out a dozen cocoons and 4 mulberry saplings that were as tall as a person. The saplings of the mulberry trees had already taken root, so there was no point in keeping these saplings. However, the branches of the mulberry tree were clearly not freshly plucked and looked like they had been stored for a few days. It was too suspicious to take them out, so he could only hand the saplings over to the chief. When Wang Jian and Wang Shui saw the cocoon and mulberry sapling, their eyes widened. To a clan, this was a true treasure. Planting mulberries and raising silkworms was much more cost-effective than mining ores. Small mines generally didn't have spirit veins, but they needed cultivators to oversee them. In places without spirit veins, the spirit energy was very thin. It was not enough to sustain the daily cultivation of a chi refinement cultivator. That would require the consumption of spirit stones or pills. As a result, the cost went up. Planting mulberries and raising silkworms could be done on their own spirit mountains. Their daily work was picking mulberry leaves, spinning silk, and so on. These tasks could be done by ordinary people. They only needed cultivators to watch over these spirit silkworms and prevent them from escaping. The cost of planting mulberries and raising silkworms was extremely low. As long as there was sufficient spirit energy, the spirit mulberries could grow very well without needing to be planted in spirit fields. The Wang clan could be said to be blessed by the heavens. With the Jade Dragon Spring, as long as they watered it often, they could plant spirit mulberries anywhere. Jade Spring Peak could plant spirit mulberries and raise spirit silkworms on a large scale. Moreover, these tasks didn't require cultivators to do them. The clan had about 100,000 ordinary people, and there were thousands of new children born every year. They could take care of as many spirit mulberries as they wanted. Now that they had spirit mulberries and spirit silkworms, the clan could develop the mulberry silkworm industry as their main business in the future. This was a sustainable development path, unlike spirit mines that would disappear after they were mined. As long as there were spirit veins, the mulberry silkworm industry could continue. The mulberry silkworm industry was a low-cost and high-return industry, but very few clans would use it as a pillar industry. There were 2 main reasons. First, without conditions like the Jade Dragon Spring, they could only rely on spirit fields to plant spirit mulberries. Spirit trees needed a lot of space to grow, and only a few could be planted in 1 mu of land. It also consumed a lot of soil energy, so planting spirit mulberries was not as cost-effective as planting spirit herbs. Second, common spirit silkworms were all low-grade grade 1 spirit silkworms. High-grade spirit silkworms were extremely rare, and low-grade grade 1 spirit silkworm silk wasn't worth a few spirit stones. High-grade spirit mulberries were also not easy to find. If spirit mulberries weren't good enough, even the best spirit silkworms couldn't produce good silk. The Wang clan had the Jade Dragon Spring, and their ancestors had thought of developing the mulberry silkworm industry. Unfortunately, the Wang clan had been oppressed by the Liang clan in the past, and it was very difficult for them to make ends meet. They didn't have the financial resources to find valuable spirit silkworms and spirit mulberries. Now that the clan's external environment was much better, They already had the right time and place to plant mulberries and raise silkworms. This time, they had high-grade grade 1 spirit silkworms and spirit mulberries that could grow to low-grade grade 2 spirit mulberries. It could be said that they had gathered at the right time, place and people. Wang Xian asked in shock again. You only went out for a few days, and you found so many good things? Also, what grade are these spirit silkworms and spirit mulberries? He was so shocked that he forgot to use his divine sense to investigate the cocoons and spirit mulberries. Wang Daoyuan replied with a smile. I can't detect this cocoon with my divine sense, so I speculate that it's a spirit-forbidding silkworm. This spirit mulberry's mother stalk is low-grade grade 2 and is more than 30 meters tall. I don't have the ability to move it, so I can only dig up a few small stalks and bring them back. Hearing his words, Wang Xian's eyes lit up. He originally thought that it would be good if these spirit mulberries and spirit silkworms could be mid-grade grade 1. There was a high-grade grade 3 spirit vein in the Jade Spring Peak, so they might be able to advance to high-grade grade 1 in the future. Ordinary high-grade grade 1 spirit silkworm silk could be sold for 20 to 30 spirit stones per kilogram. After a few decades of development, the scale would increase, and it could be a pillar of the clan's industry. However, he didn't expect the spirit silkworms and spirit mulberries to be of such high grade. The grade of the spirit mulberry's mother stalk had a great impact on the upper limit of the child stalk's growth. These spirit mulberries, if planted in a place with abundant spirit chi, would grow to low-grade grade 2 spirit wood without a problem. He scanned with his divine sense and couldn't find any cocoons. These were indeed spirit-forbidding silkworms. 1 kilogram of silk could be sold for more than 200 spirit stones. In the future, when the silkworm industry developed and expanded, it could support the expenses of a large golden core clan. Of course, this would take a long time. Without a few decades of development, it wouldn't be able to reach a climax. If the state of Zhao could be stabilized for another 1 or 200 years, it wouldn't be difficult for the Wang clan to restore the prosperity it had when the ancestor was alive. Wang Xian said with a trembling voice, Dao Yuan, I really don't know how to reward you this time. After I finish dealing with the matters of the Green Willow province, I'll return to the mountain and discuss with the elders before making a decision. Xueqi, take the purple gold grass, spirit mulberries, and spirit silkworms and immediately return to the Jade Spring Peak. To be safe, leave a spirit mulberry, 4 cocoons, and 2 stalks of purple gold grass in this cave residence. Chapter 92. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, Fifth uncle, don't be anxious. There are still some things. With that, he took out a storage bag. There were more than 100 mid-grade spirit stones and more than 30 high-grade tier 1 magic artifacts. He left all the spirit talismans and pills. After all, he would often enter the heaven/mountain range in the future. He needed to prepare more resources, just in case. As for these tier 1 magic artifacts, they were all used by Zhao Baogua to fool the rogue cultivators of Green Willow province. The quality was not good. A high-grade tier 1 magic artifact sword was not even as good as the profound Yang sword. He really did not fancy it, so he did not keep it. Wang Xian opened the storage bag and was shocked. He asked, Daoyan, where did you get so many good things? Although the previous purple gold grass and spirit-forbidding silkworm were worth more than 10,000 spirit stones, they still needed dozens or even hundreds of years to develop. As for these 100 over mid-grade spirit stones, they would be able to solve this urgent problem. With these spirit stones, it would be easy to bid for a foundation establishment pill. I went around the outer border of the heaven/mountain range. When I came out, I met Zhao Baogua and robbed him. Wang Daoyuan said indifferently. His 12th uncle, Wang Shui, laughed and said, You are indeed my nephew. We have done the same thing. 10 years ago, when I just reached the peak of chi refinement, I met him when I was traveling. This old guy wanted to kill me and steal my treasures. I lured him into the river and beat him up. In the end, he handed over his storage bag and begged me to spare his life. I thought that he should have some life-saving methods, but it was useless. Killing him was not easy, so I took the opportunity to take the storage bag and let him go. I didn't expect that 10 years later, he still did not improve and was robbed by you. As soon as Wang Daoyuan heard this, he was immediately enraged. I was wondering why this old fellow was so desperate to rob me. I used the cloud escape to escape to Qingxi, but he chased me for 200 to 300 miles. He would rather die than let me go. Turns out he has a grudge against you. 12th uncle, You really made me suffer. If not for the jade pendant that Ancestor Yang gave me, I would have fallen into his hands. Later, I lured him into a python's cave and killed him with a sneak attack. What? Wang Shui asked in surprise. You killed him? Back then, if it weren't for the fact that my water dragon technique was greatly enhanced in water, I wouldn't have been a match for him. Yet you were able to kill him. With your strength, you can be considered a first-rate expert below Foundation establishment. Wang Daoyuan laughed and said, 12th uncle, it's not like you don't know that I'm good at scheming against people. Zhao Baogua was eager for revenge, so I took advantage of the opportunity. He should have bought a large amount of resources from Clear Glass City and sold them at Green Willow Island. They all fell into my hands. I have a use for spirit pills and spirit talismans, and the family shop doesn't lack them. None of the magic tools are suitable for me, and it just so happens that my clansmen are also lacking magic tools. I'll use them all to exchange for contribution points. Wang Daoyuan also took out 2 Jasper watermelons and said, take these back and let grandfather have a taste. Although Jasper watermelons consume a lot of soil energy, with Jade Dragon Spring, our family can still grow some. Our family's drunken immortal restaurant's dishes are too monotonous, so adding a few melons and fruits would be pretty good. Wang Xian nodded and said, Dao Yuan's words are reasonable. In the future, we can grow some spirit fruits on Jade Spring Peak. Shui, take these things back to Jade Spring Peak. You must be careful. Wang Shui took the things and left the spiritual spring cave, returning to Jade Spring Peak along the way he came. 3 days later, the Great Elder sent news that Wang Shui and his things had arrived at Jade Spring Peak without any surprises or dangers along the way. This time, Wang Daoyuan didn't find any trouble in the vicinity of the meeting place. There were still more than 10 days before the meeting time, so he wasn't in a hurry to investigate again. For the next few days, he stayed in the spiritual spring cave and cultivated. After Wang Shui sent the things back to Jade Spring Peak, he once again went to the spiritual spring cave. Wang Xian was now preparing for his succession. Discussing business with other powers was a big matter, so it was better for the successor to follow along and gain some experience. Of course, the premise was that safety was guaranteed. Before the meeting, Wang Daoyuan went out again to investigate the vicinity of the meeting place. However, he still didn't find any problems. It seemed that the Oasis side was sincere in cooperating with the Wang family, and didn't have any intention of causing trouble. On the day of the meeting, Wang Daoyuan arrived at the meeting place early and investigated the surroundings again. Everything was still normal. In the process of investigation, he also met Chen Liang. As the liaison of the Oasis side, it was reasonable for him to come to the meeting. Seeing Wang Daoyuan, he enthusiastically asked, Daoyu, we meet again. I wonder if your clan's patriarch has arrived. Wang Daoyuan also politely cupped his hands and said, Chen Daoyu, my clan's patriarch will arrive soon. I wonder if you have any arrangements? My master will also be here soon. Chen Liang replied, I'll inform Daoyu in advance that this negotiation is the intention of all the Foundation Establishment cultivators of the Oasis, so all the Foundation Establishment seniors have sent their juniors. These people are all Qi disciple cultivators. My master is the only Foundation Establishment cultivator. I didn't inform him in advance, so I hope Wang Daoyuan won't take offense. The clan's patriarch had already expected this situation. The Oasis side was jointly established by many Foundation Establishment cultivators. How could they leave all the negotiation matters to one person? In order to prevent Chen Liang's master from reaching some secret agreement with the Wang family and harming the interests of the other Foundation Establishment cultivators, the other Foundation Establishment cultivators would definitely send people to monitor. Only a few Qi disciple cultivators came. It wouldn't be a big deal. Wang Daoyuan smiled. It's fine. It's only right for the other seniors to send people. After a quarter of an hour, Wang Xian brought Wang Shui and the people of the Oasis side to the meeting place. The Foundation Establishment cultivator of the Oasis side cupped his hands and said, Chen Zicheng of the Oasis side greets Dao Yu. The others also cupped their hands and called him Senior Wang. Wang Xian also returned the greeting. Wang family's Wang Xian greets Dao Chen. Wang Shui and Wang Daoyuan also cupped their hands and said, Greetings Senior Chen and Dao Yu. Both sides greeted each other warmly and introduced each other's juniors. The atmosphere was very harmonious. Chen Zicheng mainly introduced a Qi disciple level 8 youth. This person was called Shi Xinghua. He was the eldest son of the strongest cultivator of the oasis side, Shi. He looked to be in his 20s. Shi was a Foundation Establishment peak cultivator and could break through to the Purple Palace realm at any time. He had the highest authority in the oasis side. Shi also had a face full of arrogance. He cupped his hands and said to the three people of the Wang family, Shi of the Shi family of River Yang greets Marquis Yuchuan and the two Dao Yu. River Yang referred to the River Yang County, west of Qingli County. The ancestor of the Shi family of River Yang was the founding minister of the state of Zhao, and was conferred the title of River Yang County Duke. As an old noble, marriage with the royal family was unavoidable. When the three major sects rebelled, the Shi family was the focus of the attack. Almost all of their clansmen were killed. Only a few escaped into the sky/mountain range. Marquis Yuchuan was the title of the ancestor of the Wang family, Wang Chengzu. Logically speaking, if the state of Zhao was still ruled by the Zhao family, then Wang Jian, as the head of the Wang family, should inherit the title of Marquis Yuchuan. However, the state of Zhao had been dead for more than 300 years now. The Wang family had also become a subordinate family of the Netherworld sect. Using the title of the previous dynasty to call Wang Jian was a bit of blaming the Wang family for betraying the emperor and joining the enemy. Once this was said, everyone's expression changed. They were here to discuss business, not to criticize. How could they expose someone's shortcomings when discussing business? Wang Jian silently glanced at Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan immediately understood the meaning of the clan head. At this time, he could only stand up for himself. The clan head was a Foundation Establishment cultivator, so it was too degrading. The 12th uncle, Wang Shui, was much older than Shi and had a higher cultivation. Him speaking up was a bit of bullying. Chapter 93. Wang Daoyuan was all smiles as he cupped his hands towards Shi. This Shi Daoyu from Green Willow State is indeed a talent. Wang Daoyuan from Jade Spring Wang family greets Shi Daoyu. Those who could come to the meeting were not to be trifled with. How could they not understand the meaning behind Wang Daoyuan's words? Shi claimed to be from River Sun's Shi family. But why are you in Green Willow State now? The Wang family's ancestor is Jade Spring Marquis and Jade Spring Peak is still in the hands of the Wang family. Wang Daoyuan claimed to be from the Jade Spring Wang family, so he was very confident. You can't even keep your fiefdom and are holed up in the sky/mountain range. You don't even dare to enter Zhao's territory, yet you still have the face to mention River Sun's Shi family. Shi came to the meeting because he was valued by his elders. Such a person might not be amazing, but in terms of talent and intelligence, he was at least above average. He naturally understood the meaning behind Wang Daoyuan's words. However, he was choked by Wang Daoyuan's words and didn't know what to say. His face turned red. The situation was a little awkward. Chen Zicheng tried to smooth things over. This little friend of the Wang family is also a young talent, reaching Qi disciple level 7 at such a young age. He then said to the young people around him, "You should also ask for advice from little friend Wang." Everyone agreed and pretended that they didn't understand the meaning behind the two's words. The two were just greeting each other. If no one understood the meaning behind the words, then it didn't exist. The atmosphere of the meeting became harmonious again. Only Shi expression was a little unnatural. Chen Zicheng resolved the awkward situation and didn't give the young people a chance to speak. He didn't want anyone to speak and ruin the business. The business this time was to go to Green Willow State to beg the Wang family. The Wang family's things could be sold anywhere. They didn't lack Green Willow State. If the business was ruined, the Wang family wouldn't lose much, but Green Willow State would lose a supply channel. Wang Daoyuan took out a large pile of things from his storage bag. A long table, more than 10 chairs, a large teapot, more than 10 teacups, and more than 10 fruit plates. Under a towering tree nearby, tables and chairs were set up and everyone was invited to take a seat. The three from the Wang clan sat on one side while the people from the Green Willow continent sat on the other. He took out some commonly seen tea leaves from the market and put them into the teapot. He poured in some spirit spring water and boiled it with a fire attribute spirit talisman. Then, he poured everyone a cup. He then took out the last ripe jasper watermelon and cut it into a dozen pieces. Everyone had a piece of watermelon in front of them. This operation made everyone curious. They were here to discuss business, but why did it seem like they were opening a tea house? In the immortal cultivation world, it was relatively simple to discuss matters. Just like when Wang Daoyuan was selling spiritual honey, it was a small dark room where two people could talk. Even in the wilderness, they would talk while standing. How could there be tables and chairs with tea and fruits? After a series of operations, everyone took their seats. Chen Ziqing said, Daoyuan, I previously asked Chen Liang to convey our sincerity. We will buy the pills, spirit talismans, spirit grains, and other items from the Wang family at 20% market price. Whether you want to use spirit stones or spirit items from the Sky Beheading Mountain range, you can settle the bill. As for the supply volume, I dare to boast that we will buy as much as the Wang family has. This condition was already very generous. After the previous wave of rush sales, the market in Clear Glass City was already saturated in a short time. In addition, all the factions were in a hurry to sell their spirit items to prepare for the auction of the Foundation Establishment Pill. So business was not good. Green Willow State might have seen this situation and proposed cooperation at this time. The Wang family also sincerely wanted to do this business, so they naturally had no objections to this price. Moreover, Green Willow State could buy as many resources as they wanted, so the Wang family's goods would not be overstocked. Wang Jian replied, My Wang family has no objections to this price. Since you can buy as many resources as you want, then there is nothing to talk about. Now, let's discuss how to trade. My Wang family is not interested in how Dao Yu from Green Willow State will distribute the goods. We only care about the money and the goods. How you get the goods is your business. My Wang family's property closest to Green Willow State is Mirror Iron Mountain. What I mean is that the trade will take place at Mirror Iron Mountain. You can send people to pretend to be ordinary loose cultivators and enter Mirror Iron Mountain. It will not be too conspicuous. As long as you send people to pay, we will give you the goods. Once the people and the goods leave Mirror Iron Mountain, my Wang family will not care. What does Dao Yu think? Chen Zicheng muttered to himself and said, I don't have any objections, but the people who come to take the goods need to have proof. Saying this, he took out a jade pendant. Exerting force in his hand, the jade pendant was split into two halves. The gap was uneven. He handed half of the jade pendant to Wang Jian and took the other half. He said, We will use this jade pendant as proof. The people who come to take the goods will take this half of the jade pendant, and the people who deliver the goods will also take the other half of the jade pendant. During the trade, we will verify whether the two halves of the jade pendant fit together. We only recognize the jade and not the person. Wang Jiha nodded and said, Let's do it this way. Afterwards, the two Foundation Establishment cultivators discussed the details of their cooperation. The others only needed to listen. Since he was bored and had no opportunity to interrupt, Wang Daoyuan picked up his teacup and drank a mouthful of tea. He also ate a piece of watermelon in front of him. Seeing him directly eat and drink, the youths from Green Willow State no longer held back. They all became melon-eating spectators, eating while listening to the contents of the two Foundation Establishment seniors' discussion. After 2 hours, Wang Daoyuan had to refill their tea several times before the two Foundation Establishment cultivators finally finished discussing all the details. Henceforth, the business cooperation between the two sides was smoothly concluded. After exchanging a few pleasantries, the two sides could return to their respective residences. As for Xueqi, he might have been displeased by Wang Daoyuan's words. Before the business was concluded, he did not dare to act rashly for fear of ruining the business. Now that the cooperation had been reached, the two Foundation Establishment cultivators would not fall out with each other even if there were some conflicts. He cupped his hands towards Wang Daoyuan and said, Previously, Uncle Chen told us to ask for guidance from Wang Daoyu. As cultivators, we naturally make friends through martial arts. I wonder if Wang Daoyu would be willing to exchange a few moves with us? Wang Daoyuan glanced at the clan leader from the corner of his eyes, asking for his opinion. The clan leader nodded slightly, indicating that he was willing to fight. Wang Jian knew in his heart that with Wang Daoyuan's strength, no one below the Foundation Establishment stage could kill him. He always knew when to stop and would not hurt Xueqi. Wang Daoyuan stepped forward and cupped his hands, saying, Since Brother Shi is in the mood, I will naturally accompany you. Chen Zicheng saw that the Wang family had agreed and did not make the situation very awkward, so he was relieved. He was also not worried about what could happen in the fight between the two juniors. With two Foundation Establishment cultivators watching from the side, It was impossible for a qi condensation cultivator to injure someone in their hands. After the victor was decided, he would stop it in time. Wang Daoyuan took out his profound yang sword and saluted, saying, "Brother Shi, please." Shi Xinghua also took out a first-grade high-grade fiery red sword and returned the salute, saying, "Dao Wang, please." The two of them attacked at the same time. Wang Daoyuan was a few years younger than Shi Xinghua. His physical strength was not as good as Shi Xinghua's, and his cultivation was one level lower. Coupled with the lower grade of his magic weapon, he was at a disadvantage in the first exchange. However, Wang Daoyuan had practiced martial arts for 20 to 30 years in his previous life. In this life, he was tortured by the 12th uncle for a few months and experienced several life and death battles. His martial arts were still very solid. Although he was suppressed, it was impossible for Shi Xinghua to win quickly. Chapter 94. The two of them were sparring. They did not even use any offensive spells. They only focused their spiritual energy on the sword in their hands. Shi Xinghua looked for Wang Daoyuan to spar, just to save his face. He also knew the severity of the situation. If he injured Wang Daoyuan and ruined the business, then he would offend everyone in the Green Willow province, including the Foundation establishment stage cultivators. Therefore, although his offensive was very fierce, every move avoided Wang Daoyuan's vital points. He only wanted to win, not to injure him. After a few moves, Wang Daoyuan found that Shi Xinghua was not ruthless. He naturally knew what he was thinking. Anyway, he was young, his cultivation was low, even his magic tool was not as good as his opponent. There was no shame in losing. He only defended and did not attack, retreating step by step. The two of them exchanged more than 30 moves. Shi Xinghua stopped, said, "Wang Daoyu is really good. I can't win in martial arts. How about we compete in spells?" Wang Daoyuan laughed. "Thank you, Brother Shi, for letting me win. Brother Shi already has the upper hand. If we continue to fight, I can at most hold on for a few more minutes. Brother Shi will win." Seeing him so polite, Shi Xinghua felt a lot more comfortable, said, "Martial arts are only the fighting methods of mortals. I am a cultivator, naturally spells are the main. Let's compare spells again." Wang Daoyuan saw that he insisted again and again. It was not good to refuse. He could only agree to compete in spells. The two of them were 3 feet apart. Shi Xinghua's hands condensed a fiery red spiritual energy. Then, it turned into a fire python more than 10 feet long. The two of them were very close. Wang Daoyuan did not have time to use the water dragon technique. He could only use the smoke escape, condensing a cloud of mist, and instantly escaped. The fire python pounced on empty air. It turned around and pounced at Wang Daoyuan again. At this time, Wang Daoyuan was free. He condensed a 3 feet long water dragon, entangling with the fire python. Although the fire python was more powerful, it was restrained by the water dragon, in addition to the extraordinary water dragon technique of the Wang family. Although it had the upper hand, it could not defeat the water dragon. The fire element's explosive power was strong, but it could not be sustained. Although the water element was not very strong in terms of offense and defense, it was not afraid of anyone when it came to attrition. What's more, the two of them were fighting on the banks of a clear stream. The water spiritual energy here was extremely rich, and Wang Daoyuan's consumption of spiritual energy was much lower. If the stalemate continued, Shi Xinghua would definitely be the first to give up. The water dragon and the fire python were in a deadlock for half an hour. Wang Daoyuan was still at ease, but Shi Xinghua was already struggling. Wang Daoyuan thought to himself, "This Shi Xinghua is a person who understands the big picture. It's just that he's young and impetuous. After being ridiculed by me a few times, he couldn't take it, so he wanted to exchange pointers with me. If I defeat him in public, then we will become enemies." It was better to squash enmity than to keep it alive. The two families were about to cooperate, and offending the son of the Green Willow Continent's great leader was not a wise move. Thinking of this, Wang Daoyuan injected a large amount of water spiritual qi into the water dragon, causing it to explode and dissipate together with the fire python. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "Brother Shi's magic is brilliant. If not for this clear stream, I would have been defeated long ago." His words were not entirely modest. If it was elsewhere, without using his trump card and talisman, he really would not be able to beat Shi Xinghua. Wang Daoyuan had given in twice, and Shi Xinghua was not someone who did not know what was good for him. At this time, his anger had already dissipated. He cupped his hands and said, "The Wang family's water dragon technique is indeed worthy of its reputation. Brother Wang's water dragon technique is not yet proficient, but it already has such power. If you train for a while more, I'm afraid I won't be your opponent. The two of them gave in to each other and did not fight. Instead, they became friends after fighting. Everyone present was relieved. After the business was settled, they did not stay any longer and left the meeting place. Wang Daoyuan picked up the table and cutlery and followed the clan leader back to Mirror Iron Mountain. The three of them returned to Mirror Iron Mountain. Wang Xian gave Wang Shoujiang the jade pendant as proof and said, "Shoujiang, the family and Green Willow Province have reached a business agreement. In the future, the family and Green Willow Province will trade at Mirror Iron Mountain. This is an important source of income for the family. You have to take care of this." Wang Shoujiang said with some difficulty, "Fifth uncle, you know me. I'm good at fighting, but I'm not good at business. I don't have the confidence to do this well." Wang Xian smiled and said, "You've always been overseeing Mirror Iron Mountain. If I suddenly transfer you away, I'm afraid it'll attract the Liang family's attention. Don't worry, I'll transfer your 10th uncle over to help. He's been doing business all his life. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask him." Afterward, the three of them left Mirror Iron Mountain and took Wang Daoxing with them. Wang Daoxing had been staying at Mirror Iron Mountain all this time. When he had nothing to do, he would harm the monsters and wild beasts nearby. Now that they were doing business with Green Willow Province, they needed to keep it a secret. It was not appropriate to leave a wooden club here. The four of them returned to Jade Spring Peak by land. Wang Daoyuan found an excuse to leave midway and return to the Spirit Spring Cave. He had nothing to do back at the family, so it was better to cultivate in the Spirit Spring Cave. He had always been envious of Qi Yun's experience in array formations. He wanted to refine him into a clone, but he was afraid that his soul would be too strong and hurt him. Last time, he had used the soul extinguishing bell to deal with Xiao Baogua and destroyed his soul's resistance. He could use this move on Qi Yun. He returned to the Spirit Spring Cave and took Qi Yun out of the Spirit Beast bag. Qi Yun's head was stuck with the soul-subduing talisman and was still unconscious. Wang Daoyuan did not waste any time and directly activated the soul-extinguishing bell. Other than spirit plants, there were only pseudo-spirit fish and spirit-forbidding silkworms in the cave. The pseudo-spirit fish were in the water, and the spirit-forbidding silkworms had the protection of their cocoons. They were not afraid of the bell. Only Qi Yun was unlucky. After activating the soul-extinguishing bell once, Wang Daoyuan was not in a hurry to deal with Qi Yun. He was worried that his injuries were too light and his soul still had the ability to resist. He first formed the soul-splitting blade and cut out a split soul to nourish it for a few days. For the next few days, he used the soul-extinguishing bell on Qi Yun once a day. 5 days later, Wang Daoyuan had already finished nourishing his soul. The injuries of the split soul had also basically recovered. After being ravaged for 5 days, Qi Yun could only gasp for breath. If this continued, he would be completely finished soon. Wang Daoyuan formed the soul-splitting blade and broke through Qi Yun's sea of consciousness. Qi Yun's soul was already extremely weak. He could barely maintain his human form. He was muddle-headed and did not move at all. He controlled the soul-splitting blade and lightly tapped on Qi Yun's soul. The soul immediately dissipated. The soul-splitting blade immediately dispersed into pure divine sense power, condensing the dissipated soul back together. Wang Daoyuan sent the split soul into Qi Yun's sea of consciousness and merged with the soul that was reforming. After doing all this, he sent the third clone, Qi Yun, into the spirit pearl space to recuperate. The matter of prying into memories and cultivating array formations was left to Qi Yun. When he succeeded in his cultivation, he could replace the split soul and study array formations himself. The flow of time in the spirit pearl space was 20 times faster. Qi Yun could quickly recover and study array formations. Liang Zixing's main spiritual root was a fire spiritual root. He could learn alchemy and weapon forging. Wang Daoyuan asked for the basic knowledge of alchemy from his 7th uncle, Wang Shouhong. He could let Liang Zixing learn it. The fiery sun would had already multiplied over 100 trees. However, it had not reached the point where it could be used to burn charcoal. There was still insufficient spiritual charcoal. Previously, Wang Daoyuan had only planted one of the old branches of the spiritual mulberry tree in the space. The rest could be used to burn charcoal. However, it was a second-tier low-grade spiritual wood. Even the branches were first-tier high-grade spiritual materials. It would be a waste to use it directly to burn charcoal. Moreover, if a beginner used such good spiritual charcoal, the firepower would be too strong. It would not be good for controlling the fire. It was better to let the clone learn the basic knowledge first. There was no need to start immediately. Chapter 95. Wang Daoyuan was preparing to switch to the 5 elements primordial art. The 5 elements cultivation technique of a golden core cultivator beckoned to him. If not for the patriarch, he would have started to switch long ago. Before starting, he carefully comprehended the cultivation technique. The 5 elements primordial art was based on common basic cultivation techniques, plus the conversion of the 5 elements spirit energy and nourishment of the body. The 5 viscera of the human body corresponded to the 5 elements. The heart was fire, the liver was wood, the lungs were metal, the kidney was water, and the spleen was earth. The 5 elements primordial art cultivated the 5 elements spirit energy, and used spirit energy to nourish the corresponding viscera, strengthening the body. Therefore, this cultivation technique had a certain body tempering effect and was considered a relatively advanced body tempering technique. Ordinary body tempering techniques only strengthened the body and ignored the viscera. If the human body was compared to a tree, the connate chi and viscera were the roots and trunk, and the muscles and bones were the branches and leaves. Regardless of whether the roots and trunk were dead or alive, only the branches and leaves were strengthened. A gust of wind could blow the tree down. The 5 elements primordial art strengthened the roots. When the roots and trunk were strong, the branches and leaves would naturally be luxuriant. Only when the roots were deeply rooted could the tree resist the wind. In the early stages, the 5 elements primordial art's body tempering effect was not significant. It only made the body stronger and had more chi and blood. The strength of the body could not be compared to those body tempering techniques that tempered the muscles and bones. But in the long run, ordinary body tempering techniques overdraft the body's potential, while the 5 elements primordial art strengthened the body in all aspects. However, the speed at which the body and cultivation improved together was simply too slow. Wang Daoyuan had unlimited resources, but it would take him 10 to 20 years to reach the greater mastery realm, unless he was lucky enough to obtain a high-level spirit item. It was conceivable that ordinary cultivators could not even be satisfied with spirit grains for every meal. How much time would it take to cultivate this damn cultivation technique? However, with the space in the spirit pearl, he did not lack resources and did not have to worry about others. If he could cultivate to the greater mastery realm in more than 10 years, he would only be in his 30s. Even in a large sect, a peak chi refinement realm cultivator in his 30s could be considered an upper-class level. After understanding the 5 elements primordial art, Wang Daoyuan officially began to cultivate. Because the primordial 5 elements technique could change the attributes of the 5 elements, he did not need to cultivate it from scratch. All he needed to do was to circulate his cultivation technique and convert the water spiritual energy in his dantian into the 5 elements. Then, he condensed the 5 elements spiritual energy into true essence and merged it into his blood to form blood essence, which nourished his 5 internal organs and strengthened his entire body. Wang Daoyuan cultivated for a few hours every day, and spent the rest of his time refining talismans and cultivating the soul-chasing whip technique. 5 elements Taoist's whip technique was not entirely for close combat. Instead, it was based on the sword techniques of sword cultivators. After he reached foundation establishment, he could use the soul-chasing whip technique. Every lash of the whip would create a gust of wind, just like the sword chi of a sword cultivator. It was a long-range attack. Although the whip itself was not suitable for the sword manipulation technique and could not fly on the whip, its power and attack range were not inferior to the sword manipulation technique. The ultimate move of this whip technique was called the soul-hunting whip. It could unleash 5 types of spiritual energy with a single whip, and its power could crush most Tier 2 spells. Xiao Baogua's 5 consecutive whips could be said to be a shortcut. He could not unleash all 5 elements at once, but only one type of spiritual energy. Although it was far from the full power of this move, it was still not difficult to beat up cultivators of the same level. If he did not rely on the soul-extinguishing bell, it was very likely that he would have fallen into the hands of Xiao Baogua. After cultivating in the Spirit Spring Cave for more than 2 months, Wang Daoyuan converted the spiritual energy in his body into the 5-element spiritual energy. His 5 internal organs, meridians, and dantian were all nurtured. Although there was no change in his cultivation, his overall strength had undergone an earth-shaking change. The total amount of spiritual energy in his dantian was twice as much as before. His physical strength had also greatly increased. The strength of his meridians and internal organs had increased a lot. In addition, the soul-chasing whip technique could be considered a small achievement. Now, he could face Zhang Deshang head-on. After cultivating the 5 elements primordial technique, he finally understood why Xiao Baogua was so difficult to deal with. Firstly, the 5 dragon soul-chasing whip saved spiritual energy. Secondly, the 5 elements primordial technique spiritual energy was abundant. Thirdly, the 5 elements primordial technique had a great advantage: fast recovery. Just in terms of recovery speed, a penta spirit root cultivator who cultivated the 5 elements primordial technique might surpass a heavenly spirit root cultivator. The 5 elements primordial technique also recorded the reason for the fast recovery. Because the 5 elements engendered each other, the attribute of spiritual energy was constantly changing. Finally, it reached a state of balance between the 5 elements. This state would form non-elemental spiritual energy. Unless it was near a single attribute spirit vein like the Jade Dragon Spring, there would be more water spiritual energy than non-elemental spiritual energy. In places far away from such spirit veins, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was basically non-elemental. Take a cultivator who cultivated a water elemental technique as an example. When a cultivator absorbed non-elemental spiritual energy into his body, he needed to use the technique to break down the non-elemental spiritual energy into the 5 elemental spiritual energy. Then, he would use his own water spirit root to refine the water elemental spiritual energy into his own spiritual energy. When the water elemental spiritual energy was refined, it would become less and break the balance of the 5 elements. The other elemental spiritual energy would be transformed into water elemental spiritual energy through the mutual engendering of the 5 elements. In the end, all the spiritual energy would be transformed into water elemental spiritual energy and refined into the cultivator's own spiritual energy. As for the other elemental spiritual energy, it would take time to transform into water elemental spiritual energy. If one could only transform 1 unit of water elemental spiritual energy in a breath's time, no matter how fast the water elemental spiritual energy was refined, only 1 unit of water elemental spiritual energy could be refined into spiritual energy. This was called the spiritual energy transformation bottleneck by immortal cultivators. This bottleneck was unavoidable even for those with heavenly spirit roots. As for penta spirit root cultivators who cultivated the 5 elements primordial technique, they could directly ignore the bottleneck of spiritual energy transformation. They could break down non-elemental spiritual energy into 5 elemental spiritual energy and refine the 5 elemental spiritual energy at the same time. When recovering their spiritual energy, there was no need to change the spiritual energy's attribute. If one cultivated a water elemental technique, one could cultivate in a water elemental spirit vein or spirit eye without worrying about this bottleneck. However, one could not avoid this bottleneck when traveling outside or facing enemies unless they consumed water elemental spiritual objects all day long. This also reflected the usefulness of cultivation resources. With the support of a large number of water elemental spiritual objects, one's cultivation speed would not be affected by this bottleneck. As long as there was sufficient spiritual energy, penta spirit root cultivators could always maintain the fastest refining speed. On the other hand, heavenly spirit root cultivators could not achieve the fastest refining speed. Therefore, in a place where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was mostly non-elemental, without the assistance of spiritual objects, the recovery speed of penta spirit root cultivators could theoretically reach 10 times that of heavenly spirit root cultivators. Of course, this was only the recovery speed. In terms of cultivation speed, heavenly spirit root cultivators were far superior to other cultivators. Cultivation speed was not only about absorbing spiritual energy and transforming it into spiritual energy, but also condensing spiritual energy into quintessential essence. A cultivator's cultivation speed was the process of increasing the quality and quantity of quintessential essence. The process of condensing spiritual energy into quintessential essence mainly depended on one's spiritual root aptitude. Heavenly spirit root cultivators could only cultivate spiritual energy of one attribute, which was extremely pure. As for multi-spirit root cultivators, even if they cultivated single elemental techniques, during the cultivation process, their spiritual roots of other attributes would also refine a small amount of spiritual energy into spiritual energy, resulting in a heterogeneous spiritual energy. The purer the spiritual energy, the higher the quality of the condensed quintessential essence, and the faster the condensing speed. The height of the spiritual root directly determined the speed at which the spiritual energy condensed quintessential essence. The higher the spiritual root, the faster the condensing speed. Heavenly spirit root cultivators only had one spiritual root, and their spiritual energy was extremely pure. Furthermore, the spiritual root's shadow was longer than 9 inches, and the condensing speed was faster. These were the 2 advantages. This was the reason why heavenly spirit root cultivators were far superior to other cultivators. Wang Daoyuan, a penta spirit root cultivator, recovered spiritual energy the fastest, but condensed quintessential essence the slowest. Chapter 96. When a cultivator broke through to the next realm, the quality of their true essence would increase, which would then lead to improvements in all aspects of their body. Cultivators with heavenly spirit roots had a higher quality of true essence than cultivators of the same realm, so it was easier for them to break through. Cultivators with penta spirit roots had the lowest quality of true essence, so it was the hardest for them to break through. Increasing one's cultivation in the same realm meant increasing the quantity of true essence. This depended on the speed of condensing true essence. Spirit medicines such as spirit gathering pills could increase the speed of condensing true essence. Therefore, spirit gathering pills had the effect of increasing one's cultivation. Spirit gathering pills that could assist in breaking through to the next realm could increase the quality of true essence, such as the Foundation Establishment Pill. Cultivators of different cultivation realms had different forms of true essence in their bodies. Qi refining stage cultivators' true essence was all hidden in their blood essence. Foundation establishment stage and Zifu stage cultivators' true essence was mainly in the form of true essence liquid, which existed in the Dantian. Golden core stage cultivators' true essence was the core of the golden core stage, and the outer layer of the golden core stage was compressed spirit qi. Cultivators with qi refining stage and above also had true essence in their blood essence, but compared to the true essence in the Dantian, the amount was too little. When cultivators fought, they would usually only use spirit qi. As for powerful forbidden techniques and secret techniques, most of them consumed true essence as the price. Once true essence was used, the power of the technique would increase explosively, but if too much true essence was used, there would be the danger of a drop in cultivation level. If true essence was used up, there was a high possibility that one would die. Even if one did not die, their cultivation level would be completely destroyed, and they would have to start cultivating again. Although the 5 elements primordial technique was a relatively advanced technique, it could not solve the problem of penta spirit root spirit qi being impure and the slow speed of condensing true essence. If there was a technique that could solve the problem of penta spirit roots cultivator's spirit qi being impure, then his penta spirit roots would not be weaker than heavenly spirit roots, and could even become the strongest spirit roots. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to have extravagant hopes of increasing his cultivation level quickly. The 5 elements primordial technique could bring out the penta spirit roots cultivator's advantage to the extreme, and he was already very satisfied. 2 months was equivalent to more than 3 years in the space of the spirit pearl. The first and second generation fiery sun wood in the space could be chopped. After 3 years of practice, the clone Liang Zixing could already refine spirit gathering pills. Wang Daoyuan would have another source of income. For the past 3 years, the avatar Qi Yun had been researching array formations, but the speed of his progress wasn't ideal. Due to the flaw of the doppelganger soul nurturing technique, the doppelganger improved slowly. However, Qi Yun was a high-grade Tier 2 array master. The clone Sea of Consciousness still retained his memories and most of the soul belonged to Qi Yun. Logically speaking, the clone should be able to quickly recover to the level of a high-grade Tier 2 array master. However, after more than 3 years, he was still only able to set up middle-grade Tier 1 array formations. Perhaps it was because Qi Yun's soul had been severely injured before, and he had destroyed too many of his soul fragments, causing his soul to be severely damaged. On top of that, he was even refined into a clone, which severely injured him once more. The rate at which he was improving his strength was a pitiful sight. It was unlikely that he would be able to recover his mastery of formations in the future. Wang Daoyuan wasn't in a hurry either. He didn't expect his avatar to come up with any tricks by studying array formations. It was also to help him accumulate experience. When he started researching array formations, it would save him a lot of time. Liang Zixing and Qi Yun both had work to do. Only Zhao Baogua didn't have the talent to cultivate the 100 arts of immortal cultivation. It was the same for his avatar. The management of the spirit plants in the spirit pearl space, the feeding of the spirit fish, and other miscellaneous tasks were all left to him. The spirit forbidding silkworms in the space finally moved. According to the time in the space, a year ago, the silkworm moth broke out of its cocoon and laid its eggs. Now that the eggs had hatched, Xiao Baogua took on the heavy responsibility of harvesting mulberries and raising silkworms. More than 100 long-eared rabbits had already reproduced. This was the result of the 3 avatars eating long-eared rabbits. Wang Daoyuan had also eaten rabbits for 2 months. In the future, he would have to raise a spirit beast that ate rabbits. Otherwise, if he continued to reproduce at this rate, all the spirit items in the space wouldn't be enough to feed the rabbits. In the Spirit Spring Cave abode, more than 2 months had passed. The spirit mulberries and purple gold grass that the patriarch had left behind had already been planted. However, there was still no movement from the silkworm cocoons. Wang Daoyuan's main task was to find a way out for the clan. However, if he stayed in the Spirit Spring Cave abode and cultivated, the way out wouldn't jump out by itself. If he wanted to find a place to accommodate his clansmen and ensure that the enemy forces didn't dare to attack, he could only go to the Heaven Beheading Mountain Range. If he went to the Heaven Beheading Mountain Range, it was tantamount to courting death. It was better to go to the oasis to scout for information first. After all, the people in the oasis had lived in the Heaven Beheading Mountain Range for many years. They were more familiar with the environment than him. In addition, he also had to take over the business channels and connections that Xiao Baogua had left behind. Through prying into his memories, he found that Xiao Baogua still had a shop in the oasis. Xiao Baogua used this shop to sell Dharma artifacts, pills, spirit talismans, and various spirit items from rogue cultivators in the oasis. In the clear glass market, there were also a few clans that cooperated with him. They provided him with Dharma artifacts, pills, spirit talismans, as well as the spirit items produced in the Heaven Beheading Mountain Range. After Wang Daoyuan took over all of this, he could turn the partners in the clear glass market into his own clan. His clan didn't have a smithing business, so he could continue to maintain the Dharma artifact supply channels. He also had an additional channel to buy Dharma artifacts at a low price. It had to be said that Xiao Baogua was quite black-hearted. The clans in the clear glass market supplied him with 80% of the market price. He sold them at twice the market price in the oasis. This was a net profit of 200%. Humans die for wealth, birds die for food. With such high profits, who wouldn't be tempted? Although the upper echelons of the oasis cooperated with the Wang clan, the Wang clan alone couldn't provide much. To the oasis, it was a drop in the bucket. Furthermore, the resources that the upper echelons of the oasis bought at a high price couldn't be easily sold to normal rogue cultivators. Most of them were used to expand their strength. If they wanted to sell, they would sell them at a high price. Therefore, Xiao Baogua's secret line was still very profitable. Wang Daoyuan wrote down his plan and placed it in the Spirit Spring Cavern's thatched hut along with the Spirit Spring Pearl. Afterwards, he used the Earth Escape Talisman to leave the Spirit Spring Cavern. Afterwards, he used the Cloud Escape to enter the clear stream and then followed the clear stream upstream. Although he had never been to the oasis and had never even heard of the oasis before, but Xiao Baogua often came here and spent most of the year doing business in the oasis. With Xiao Baogua's memories, he could be said to be familiar with the oasis. Using the cloud escape in the water was much faster than using the spiritual movement technique on land. In 2 hours, he could travel a few hundred li. The basin where the oasis was located was less than 1,000 li away from the Mirror Iron Mountain. Wang Daoyuan traveled 400 to 500 li upstream of the clear stream and reached the mouth of a tributary that flowed into the clear stream. This tributary was called the Green Willow Stream and was named after the oasis. After entering the Green Willow Stream, the number of monsters began to increase. Along the way, he encountered more than 10 waves of aquatic monsters. Fortunately, there were no rank 2 monsters and they were no threat to him. Following the Green Willow Stream upstream for 300 li, he came to a huge basin. In the middle of the basin was a lake. This lake was called the 100 Rivers Lake. It was formed by the convergence of several hundred rivers around the basin. The 100 Rivers Lake was an irregular circle with a diameter of 5,000 li. There were many islands in the lake. The more famous ones were the Deer Cry Island, the Black Turtle Island, the Hidden Cloud Island and the Dragon Island. But the oasis had a low rank 3 spirit vein that was dozens of li long. This was something that the other islands could not compare to. The oasis slowly expanded and gradually became the core of the 100 Rivers Lake. Many loose cultivators gathered here. In addition, there was a market in the oasis. The outside world only heard of the oasis, but did not know of the 100 Rivers Lake. The oasis was roughly in the center of the 100 Rivers Lake and was 2,000 li away from the shore. There were many aquatic monsters in the 100 Rivers Lake. Rank 2 monsters often appeared. If one rashly entered the water, it was easy to be attacked. Cultivators mainly relied on spirit boats to travel to and from the oasis. Wang Daoyuan took out Xiao Baogua from the space of the spirit pearl. He used a disguise technique and changed his appearance to be similar to Xiao Baogua. He pretended to be Xiao Baogua's junior so that he could take over Xiao Baogua's connections and channels. Chapter 97. The two came to a crowded dock and waited for the spirit ship to go to Green Willow Province. After waiting for a short while, a spirit ship approached. This spirit ship was more than 10 feet long and 3 feet wide. The ship's side was covered with dense array patterns. Wang Daoyuan and Xiao Baogua each paid 2 spirit stones and boarded the ship. They found that the ship's side and deck were made of high-grade level 1 materials. The keel and the passengers driving the array could not be seen, but the keel was definitely better than the deck. This spirit ship was at least a low-grade level 2 magic tool. It was not comparable to the Wang family's spirit ship. In terms of resistance, it was not on the same level. The Green Willow Province's spirit ship could resist the attack of a low-grade level 2 monster, but the Wang family's spirit ship could be easily destroyed by a high-grade level 1 monster. The quality of a spirit ship could also reflect the safety of the water it was traveling in. The Wang family's spirit ship traveled between Qingxi River and Qingli River. These sections of the river had been cleaned countless times. High-grade level 1 monster was rare. As long as a level 2 monster appeared, there would immediately be people to surround and kill it. The Green Willow Province's spirit ship was so generous that it could only mean one thing. The situation under the 100 River Lake was complicated. It was common for level 2 monster to attack spirit ships. There were many people waiting at the dock for the spirit ship. Soon, the ship was full. The spirit ship started and headed to the center of the lake. The ship was also very fast. It was comparable to Wang Daoyuan's speed after using a high-grade level 1 spirit travel talisman. There were many monster beasts in the 100 River Lake. The ship was just a few miles away from the dock when it encountered its first attack. A 60 to 70 foot long fish directly hit the side of the ship. When the rogue cultivators saw this, they did not panic. Instead, they were happy as if it was the new year. A few peak chi refinement rogue cultivators took out their magic tools to fight the fish. This fish was only at the peak of level 1. How could it fight against several cultivators of the same level at the same time? In just a moment, it was killed by the rogue cultivators. These rogue cultivators divided the fish's body equally, and their faces were full of joy. Rogue cultivators did not have good days. To be able to kill such a big fish, each person's share could be sold for 10 to 20 spirit stones. For rogue cultivators, it was not a small income. After 4 hours, Green Willow Island was already in sight. In these 4 hours, the spirit ship had encountered 5 or 6 attacks from aquatic monster beasts. But, all of them were first-order monster beasts. Before they could even touch the ship, they had already become extra income for the rogue cultivators. Fortunately, they didn't encounter any rank 2 demonic beasts, so they didn't encounter any danger along the way. As the spirit ship approached the oasis, they looked up and saw a large green cloud covering half the sky in the distance. This should be the legendary green willow. The size of the crown of this green willow tree was far greater than that of the pine tree on the Ash Cloud Peak. The ancient pine tree beside the Jade Spring Peak's hidden scripture tower was even more incomparable. The spirit ship slowed down and sailed into the reeds in the shallow waters. Many of the reeds in the reed marsh had already been graded and could be used to make talisman paper. Although Wang Daoyuan didn't lack rank 1 talismans, the fish pond in the spiritual pearl space was still empty, so it was better to plant some reeds. From Xiao Baogua's memories, he knew that these reeds were ownerless. Using them to make talisman paper, the production process was more complicated, so it wasn't worth it. In addition, these things could be found everywhere in the 100 Rivers Lake, so they couldn't be sold for a high price. Very few rogue cultivators had any ideas about them. Since no one cared about them, Wang Daoyuan picked up a reed flower and observed it in his hand, pretending to be very curious. No rogue cultivator cared about his actions, so he put the reed flower into the spiritual pearl space. The spirit ship twisted and turned in the gaps between the reeds and docked at a small ferry. Everyone on the ship also disembarked. Wang Daoyuan followed behind Zhao Baogua. After landing, they walked towards the market in the center of Green Willow Island. Green Willow Island was an irregular strip of sand. It was more than 200 li from north to south, 60 to 70 li from east to west, and only 10 to 20 li at its narrowest. The huge willow tree sat in the center of Green Willow Island, and many buildings surrounded the willow tree. This was Green Willow Island's market. The layout of Green Willow Island's market was very particular. 2 roads, one vertical and one horizontal, intersected, dividing the entire market into 4 neat sections. Where the 2 roads intersected, there was a huge circular flower bed, and in the flower bed was the huge willow tree. The willow tree's crown covered the entire market, and the trunk was very thick. 20 to 30 people would find it hard to wrap their arms around it. The tree was almost 100 zhang tall, and its height was comparable to some small mountains. It was said that the willow tree's roots covered the entire Green Willow Island, and it had grown on a low level 3 spirit vein for many years. It was actually a spirit plant that didn't have a grade. Other than the fact that it was made of wood, there was nothing special about it. The area near the willow tree was the most lively place in the entire Green Willow Island. The main reason was that it was large enough, and most rogue cultivators would set up stalls here. The things they sold were all products from the surrounding area, such as spirit herbs, ores, Yao beast corpses, and so on. There were very few talismans, pills, and magic tools. Zhao Baogua's shop was called Zhao Sundry Goods Shop. It was southeast of the willow tree, close to the edge of the market. The edge of the market was not bad. Because rogue cultivators did business near the willow tree, most of the shops were there. As for the cave dwellings opened by cultivators, as well as the inns for rogue cultivators, they were not suitable for noisy places. They were all at the edge of the market. Moreover, Zhao Baogua's shop sold things that were lacking in Green Willow Island, and bought things that were commonly seen in Green Willow Island. With this kind of business, no matter how remote it was, there would be no shortage of customers. He and Zhao Baogua came to Zhao's Sundry Goods shop. Zhao Baogua took out a token, and injected spirit power and spiritual sense into it. The defensive formation around the shop immediately closed. Every shop in Green Willow Island had a defensive formation. Of course, the grade was not high. But these formations were connected to the defensive formation of the entire market. Once the defensive formation was activated, if someone tried to force their way in, they would be attacked by the defensive formation. The spirit chi needed by the defensive formation was provided by Green Willow Island's 3rd-level low-grade spirit vein. Wang Daoyuan and Zhao Baogua entered the shop. They saw that the shop occupied more than 3 acres, far more than the shops in Clear Glass Market. Perhaps this was the difference between the city center and the suburbs. Green Willow Island had less people and more land. The land was not valuable, and the shops occupied a large area. Not long after the two entered the shop, a customer came. The customer was called Gao Yuan. She was not an ordinary customer, but Zhao Baogua's most important connection in Green Willow Island. Gao Yuan was one of the brokers in Green Willow Island. She was responsible for connecting people to business and collecting intermediary fees. Zhao Baogua wanted to buy valuable spirit items, and Gao Yuan's help was indispensable. Gao Yuan walked in and saw Wang Daoyuan. She asked Zhao Baogua, "Who is this little friend?" The main body and avatar were telepathic. Whatever Wang Daoyuan wanted to say, Zhao Baogua would automatically say it. Zhao Baogua answered, "He is helping me." Gao Yuan heard this and was a bit angry. "Old Zhao, you are not good enough. I recommended a few people to you, but you didn't want them. You said you didn't want to find a helper, but now you found one yourself. What? You don't trust me?" Zhao Baogua answered unhurriedly, "This kid is my family's grandnephew, my brother's grandson. How can the person you found compare to my grandnephew? I have offended many people in these few decades. Who knows when I will die in the hands of my enemies? Although we cultivators are not afraid of death, we still have to leave something to remember. Coincidentally, this grandnephew of mine has spirit roots. I asked my brother to let me adopt him. He is my grandson. When I die in the future, there will be someone to pay respects to." Gao Yuan looked at the two's appearance and found that there were indeed some similarities. In addition, The two cultivated the same cultivation technique and had similar auras. She believed Xiao Baogua's words. She nodded and did not continue to harp on it. Chapter 98. Xiao Baogua reprimanded Wang Daoyuan. Why aren't you greeting Senior Gao? Our business is all thanks to Senior Gao's introduction. Learn to be smart, don't be like when you're at home. Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, Junior Zhao Yunqing greets Senior Gao. Zhao Yunqing was Wang Daoyuan's pseudonym in Oasis in the future. Gao Yuan hurriedly replied, I dare not, I dare not. Little friend Zhao's cultivation is also at the late-stage qi refinement realm, not much lower than me. How can I dare to be his senior? Xiao Baogua smiled and said, You and I are as close as brothers. Yunqing is my grandson, so it's only right that he calls you senior. In the past, I spent most of my time in this Zhao clan's sundry goods store purchasing spiritual items. I only went to Clear Glass Market once every half a year. It was too much of a delay. In the future, I'll specialize in purchasing spiritual items from Clear Glass Market and leave the purchasing of spiritual items to Yunqing. He's new here and doesn't have much experience. When I'm not here, you have to take care of him. Gao Yuan thought in his heart that Xiao Baogua was crafty and not easy to deal with. His grandson was easy to deal with. In the future, he could squeeze more profits from this side. Thinking up to here, he naturally agreed and patted his chest to guarantee that he would definitely take good care of Zhao Yunqing. That sincere appearance, those who didn't know would think that he was taking care of his own grandson. Gao Yuan and Xiao Baogua finished wrangling and asked probingly, This time you went to Clear Glass Market, you didn't get any fewer good things, right? Xiao Baogua sighed and said, Don't mention it. I met a fat sheep on the way and originally thought that I could make a fortune. I didn't expect to meet a tough stubble and almost lost myself inside. I only came back alive after throwing away a storage pouch. That storage pouch was filled with artifacts. This time, there were only medicinal pills and talismans. Furthermore, the artifact business won't be easy in the future. The store that I took the goods from before had a big accident. It's hard to say if they can survive this hurdle. If that clan were to be destroyed just like that, then their magic tool business would probably be cut off in the future. Sigh, it's not easy to find a business partner. Now, my source of income has been cut by a third. Gao Yuan saw that his expression didn't seem to be fake, so she comforted him with a few words. Brother Zhao, you don't have to be like this. It's not a bad thing that you don't have any magic tools. If individual cultivators don't have magic tools, won't they have to consume more talismans and medicinal pills when they go hunting in the mountains? If it was well protected, a magical artifact could be used for a lifetime. If it was not well protected, it could still be used for a few years. Selling Dharma artifacts was a one-off business. If there were no Dharma artifacts, the consumption of talismans and pills would be huge. In this way, one would have to prepare more talismans and pills when searching for spiritual items in the mountains. It was normal to consume more than 10 talismans and a few pills to enter the mountain. This was equivalent to dozens of spirit stones. Even if he didn't sell his artifacts, he might be able to make more profit than selling his artifacts. Brother Zhao, you can also lower the price a little so that I can introduce business to you. Wang Daoyuan said this through Xiao Baogua's mouth in order to find an excuse for not selling magic tools in the future. He didn't expect this Gao Yuan to be such a genius. She could actually analyze the economic law so thoroughly. She deserved to be called a broker. Her vision was really sharp. Xiao Baogua pretended to be contemplating. After a long time he said with a smile, Brother Gao is really shrewd. Thinking about it carefully, it's indeed so. So, if I don't do magic tool business in the future, it'll actually be more profitable. Ha! Gao Yuan glanced outside the door. Wang Daoyuan naturally knew what she meant. He said to Xiao Baogua, Yunqing, go close the door. After closing the door, Gao Yuan said, I wonder if Brother Zhao is interested in buying spiritual medicines? Wang Daoyuan felt a burst of excitement in his heart. Seeing Gao Yuan's solemn appearance, this spirit medicine was definitely not simple. Xiao Baogua showed a curious expression and asked, I wonder what kind of spiritual medicine it is to make Brother Gao so serious? Seeing that Xiao Baogua's interest was aroused, Gao Yuan no longer kept him in suspense. She replied, Snow Ganoderma. After she finished speaking, she looked at Xiao Baogua with a look of victory. Snow Ganoderma was generally a second-tier low-grade spiritual medicine. It had been growing for a long time and its grade might be higher. It had the effect of calming the mind and preventing qi deviation. The most important thing was that Snow Ganoderma was a supplementary medicine for Foundation Establishment pills. Foundation Establishment pills had a total of more than 10 supplementary medicines. They were basically second-tier low-grade or first-tier high-grade spiritual medicines. The so-called supplementary medicines were used to supplement the main medicine. They were used to enhance the efficacy of the main medicine or to resolve the side effects of the main medicine. Foundation Establishment pills were valuable because the main medicine was too precious. The value of the supplementary medicines was much lower. Even if the value was far lower than the main medicine, the supplementary medicines could still be worth a few hundred spirit stones. Moreover, if this thing was sold in clear glass market, the price would definitely not be a problem. If it was a living plant or had seeds, people would rush to buy it at 10 times the price. After all, the shops in clear glass market all had clans or sects behind them. For the clans, planting supplementary medicines for Foundation Establishment pills was an extremely cost-effective thing. Foundation Establishment pills had 3 main medicines. They were True Essence Fruit, 500-year-old Blood Jade Ginseng and 200-year-old Dragon Vine. True Essence Fruit was a second-tier high-grade or third-tier low-grade spiritual fruit. Its function was to provide pure spiritual power. As long as this spiritual power was slightly refined, it could become the cultivator's own spiritual power. It was convenient for cultivators to condense True Essence. Moreover, True Essence Fruit could improve the quality of True Essence. It was extremely helpful for cultivators to condense True Essence into liquid True Essence when breaking through to Foundation Establishment. The spiritual power contained in Blood Jade Ginseng was very similar to Essence Blood. Qi condensation cultivators' True Essence was hidden in their Essence Blood. To condense True Essence liquid, they had to extract True Essence from their Essence Blood. This process was extremely dangerous. Once there was not enough Essence Blood, the cultivator would die of blood exhaustion. The reason why cultivators over 70 years old had a lower success rate was because their qi and blood had begun to decline, and it was easier for them to experience blood exhaustion. The spiritual power contained in Blood Jade Ginseng happened to be able to replenish Essence Blood, preventing cultivators from dying of blood exhaustion. Blood Jade Ginseng also had a huge side effect. Its powerful spiritual power replaced Essence Blood, and cultivators would easily have their qi and blood boil. In serious cases, it would lead to confusion. When one was in a state of confusion during a breakthrough, there was an 80 to 90% chance of qi deviation. The Snow Ganoderma could calm the mind and was used to eliminate this side effect of Blood Jade Ginseng. The last main ingredient was Dragon Vine. It was a highly poisonous medicine. Legend had it that it could poison a flood dragon to death. This was where the name Dragon Vine came from. Consuming Dragon Vine alone would cause the meridians and dantian to harden and lose flexibility. After the medicinal effect passed, the meridians would become very brittle. Once the spiritual power was used, the dantian and meridians would explode. When a cultivator reached Foundation Establishment, the meridians and dantian would absorb a huge amount of spiritual power. The pressure on the meridians and dantian would be great. Once the condensation of True Essence failed and the cultivator was unable to control the huge amount of spiritual power, they would directly explode and die. Most cultivators who failed to reach Foundation Establishment died at this stage. Dragon Vine could harden the dantian and meridians, greatly increasing the strength of the inner dantian and meridians in a short period of time. It could also resist the impact of losing control of spiritual power. If a cultivator wanted their meridians to return to normal after the medicinal effect of Dragon Vine passed, they would need spiritual medicines to protect their meridians. Most of the supplementary medicines for Foundation Establishment pills were used to protect the meridians and neutralize the Dragon Vine's toxicity. The Dragon Vine's value lay in its age. It could not be too old or too old. If it was too old, the toxicity would be too weak, and the hardening of the meridians and dantian would not be enough. If it was too old, the toxicity would be too strong, and the supplementary medicines would not be able to neutralize it. Therefore, in order to make its toxicity just right, it had to be harvested around 200 years old and could not be stored for too long. With the effects of these 3 main ingredients, Foundation Establishment pills were the best supplementary pills for qi refinement cultivators to reach Foundation Establishment. They could increase the success rate of reaching Foundation Establishment by 20%. Even if one failed to reach Foundation Establishment, the medicinal effect of Foundation Establishment pills would strengthen the quality of True Essence, dantian, and meridians, increasing the success rate of reaching foundation establishment by 50%. The body would also not be severely damaged. Wang Daoyuan had cultivated the 5 elements mixed yuan technique to greater mastery, which could increase the success rate of reaching foundation establishment by 30% at most. He would not be able to withstand taking 5 pills at once. However, his dantian and meridians had been strengthened by cultivation techniques. Taking 3 foundation establishment pills at once was still possible. Taking 3 foundation establishment pills at once could increase the success rate of reaching foundation establishment to more than 90%. Chapter 99. The pill recipe for the foundation establishment pill was not unique. This pill recipe was the safest, most reliable, and the lowest cost. Because the true essence fruit was too rare, some alchemists developed a method to replace the true essence fruit with demonic beast cores. Although this pill recipe bypassed the true essence fruit, the ingredients for refining the pill were not easy to collect. First of all, demonic beasts usually had demonic beast cores that were equivalent to Zifu realm cultivators. Ordinary forces simply could not obtain them. The demonic beast core was the core of the demonic beast's power. It contained pure true essence and spiritual power, but it also contained the demonic beast's blood, remnant soul, baleful aura, and other impurities. If these impurities could not be removed, the success rate would be low. Even if the foundation establishment pill was successfully refined, it would be easy for the cultivator to go berserk. Therefore, the demonic beast core needed to go through a complicated process to remove the impurities. The cost was extremely high. Compared to the true essence fruit, the true essence in the demonic beast core was too violent. Using the demonic beast core required more and better supplementary herbs to neutralize the violent true essence. The more herbs there were, the more difficult it was to refine the pill. Therefore, although the refining method for the foundation establishment pill had spread, there were not many people who used it. Hearing that there was a snow Ganoderma, Wang Daoyuan was somewhat excited. Through Zhao Baogua he eagerly asked, "Is it dead or alive? What year is it?" Seeing Zhao Baogua anxious, Gao Yuan proudly smiled and said, "It's alive. It's about 50 years old." Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was extremely excited. If it was alive, he could plant it in the spiritual pearl space. Although the snow Ganoderma needed to be over 100 years old to be used, the spiritual pearl space had a time flow of 20 times faster. It would only take a few years for it to grow to over 100 years old. Even so, Zhao Baogua still pretended to be regretful and said, "So, I can only sell it for money. I won't be able to use it." Gao Yuan advised, "Brother Zhao, don't be so pessimistic, okay? It's hard to say if one day you will have a fortuitous encounter and succeed in foundation establishment. Besides, doesn't Yunxing's little friend need it?" Gao Yuan originally wanted to arouse Zhao Baogua's interest and take the opportunity to ask for a higher price, but Zhao Baogua's sad words made her feel helpless. He could only curse the old fox in his heart. Then, he went to persuade Zhao Baogua. It would be difficult to ask for a higher price. Zhao Baogua asked, "Where is this snow Ganoderma?" Gao Yuan replied, "Brother Zhao, please wait a moment. I'll go and invite Dao Yu, the seller of the snow Ganoderma." Not long after, Gao Yuan came in with a middle-aged cultivator. The middle-aged man took out a palm-sized square jade box from his storage bag and placed it on the table. This jade box was carved from a Tier 1 spiritual material, sheep fat white jade. The spirit chi within sheep fat white jade was relatively mild and suitable for sealing living things. Simple formation patterns were engraved on the jade box. After the middle-aged cultivator touched the jade box with his divine sense, the formation patterns flickered and the box opened. A strong spirit chi dissipated. A snow-white Ganoderma was lying in the box, exuding an ice-cold aura. This Ganoderma's cap was a little more than 3 inches in diameter, and the stem was a little more than 1 inch long. It looked like a mushroom that hadn't grown yet. According to the ancient books Wang Daoyuan had read since childhood, this was indeed a snow Ganoderma. Moreover, there were 5 rings of shallow cloud patterns on the cap, which looked like tree rings. A snow Ganoderma would grow a ring of cloud every 10 years. This snow Ganoderma had 5 rings of cloud patterns. It was indeed more than 50 years old. Gao Yuan smiled and said, "Brother Zhao, how is it? There's no problem with this thing, right? You can give me a price." Zhao Baogua said, "In the future, Yunxing will be in charge of these things. Let Yunxing do it." Wang Daoyuan said, "Senior Gao, this is Dao Yu. According to the normal price, a 50-year-old snow Ganoderma can be sold for about 200 spirit stones. But this Ganoderma's vitality is very strong and its condition is very well preserved. The probability of survival is very high and the price can be doubled. 400 spirit stones to buy this snow Ganoderma. What does Dao Yu think?" The middle-aged cultivator was not good with words. His face was red and he didn't know how to respond. Gao Yuan said, "Little friend Zhao, give a bit more. This snow Ganoderma can be sold at Clear Glass Market for 2,000 spirit stones easily." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Wherever you do business, you follow the rules of that place. Even if it can be sold at Clear Glass Market for 10,000 spirit stones, it has nothing to do with this place. Dao Yu wants to sell it at Clear Glass Market's price, so go to Clear Glass Market to sell it. How much risk will there be to take things to Clear Glass Market? If things go wrong, you might even lose your life. Can't we earn a bit? If Dao Yu can find a higher price in this Green Willow region, then go ahead and sell it." The middle-aged cultivator finally choked out a sentence. "Little Dao Yu, give a bit more. My son has been tested to have spiritual roots. I haven't been able to make a name for myself in my life. I want my child's path of cultivation to be a bit easier." Alas! Wang Daoyuan let out a long sigh. Poor parents. How about this? I won't increase the price of the snow Ganoderma. In the future, when Dao Yu comes here to buy resources, I will give you a 20% discount. Hearing Wang Daoyuan not increase the price, the middle-aged cultivator's face was dispirited. When he heard Wang Daoyuan say that he would give you a 20% discount, his face was full of joy. He thanked Wang Daoyuan profusely. Hearing Wang Daoyuan's words, Gao Yuan's face changed. She thought that this kid was easier to deal with than old Zhao. She didn't expect that he was even more cunning than old Zhao. Selling things at a 20% discount, in the future, if this middle-aged cultivator wanted to buy pills and talismans, he would definitely come here to buy them. After working together for a long time, he would habitually come here to do business. In the future, if he found a valuable spiritual object, he would not need anyone to introduce him, he would come here to sell it. Moreover, after he went back, he would spread the generosity of Zhao's general store to attract more customers. The middle-aged cultivator could buy resources at a 20% discount. Zhao's general store would have one more customer. It was a win-win situation for both sides. If the price of the snow Ganoderma did not increase, he would not be able to take more commission. Sure enough, as he expected, when the middle-aged cultivator received the 400 spirit stones from selling the snow Ganoderma, he immediately bought more than 300 spirit stones worth of talismans and various kinds of pills. In the Green Willow region, the average price of a high-grade level 1 talisman was between 12 to 13 spirit stones. The average price of a spirit gathering pill was 5 spirit stones, which was more than twice the price of the Clear Glass City. Wang Daoyuan gave the middle-aged cultivator a 20% discount, which was 10 spirit stones for a high-grade level 1 talisman and 4 spirit stones for a spirit gathering pill. The middle-aged cultivator gave Gao Yuan 40 spirit stones as an intermediary fee, took the pills and talismans, and left the store full of gratitude. Wang Daoyuan took out 10 spirit stones and gave them to Gao Yuan, saying, "Many thanks to Senior Gao for helping to introduce the business. This is a small token of appreciation from this junior. In the future, if there are good things, I hope that Senior will not forget about this junior." After this operation, the seller and the intermediary, all three parties made a profit. Although Gao Yuan was not satisfied with Wang Daoyuan bypassing her to develop customers, she couldn't find fault with it. The business he introduced had already been completed, and the business gave customers discounts in other aspects. What did it have to do with you as an intermediary? Originally, not raising the price of the snow Ganoderma was detrimental to Gao Yuan's interests, but this gave him 10 spirit stones to make up for his loss, and he could also earn a few more spirit stones. Gao Yuan really didn't know what to do with Wang Daoyuan. Introducing business to him could earn more spirit stones, but it would also reduce her own importance. In the future, Wang Daoyuan's customers would increase, and he would have a good reputation among the rogue cultivators, and she would be dispensable. If she didn't introduce customers to him, she might not be able to sell the business at such a high price if she introduced it to other shops, and she was also reluctant to take the extra commission. She loved and hated Wang Daoyuan, and could only say to Zhao Baogua, "Younger brother Zhao, this grandson of yours is better than us old guys." Finished speaking, she took the 10 spirit stones, turned around and walked out of Zhao's general store. Chapter 100. Gao Yuan was very helpless towards Wang Daoyuan and could only say to Zhao Baogua, "Younger brother Zhao, this grandson of yours is more powerful than us old fellows." Finished speaking, he took the 10 spirit stones and turned to walk out of Zhao's general store. Wang Daoyuan put the snow Ganoderma into the space of the spirit pearl and handed it over to his clone to handle. There just happened to be a few withered mulberry tree branches in the space that could be used to refine first-tier high-grade magic tools. It was still barely enough to plant the snow Ganoderma. His actions were also to warn Gao Yuan not to think that he was easy to bully because he was young. From Zhao Baogua's memory, he knew that Gao Yuan was also not a kind person. In front of others, they were like brothers, but behind others, they were like tigers and wolves. When Zhao Baogua just started doing this job, he was cheated by Gao Yuan. If it wasn't for his shrewdness and strength, he was afraid that he wouldn't have been able to live until now. Wang Daoyuan beating Gao Yuan this time was to warn him that he was not to be trifled with. "Don't play tricks with me, or else, it was hard to say who would live and who would die." Beating was beating. Business still had to be done. He couldn't offend people. He gave Gao Yuan 10 spirit stones and said some beautiful words to give Gao Yuan a way out, so as to avoid making things too stiff and ruining the business. Gao Yuan wouldn't let it go just like that. He would definitely test his strength. After all, the fist was the absolute truth. Relying on words and playing tricks could only make Gao Yuan not dare to act rashly for the time being. If he wanted him to do business with him honestly, he had to have a strong fist. However, the test of force would not come too quickly. Even if it came, there was nothing to be afraid of. He used the talisman, and his combat power had already surpassed Zhao Baogua when he just started selling goods. Coupled with the 2 trump cards, his strength would completely crush him. If Zhao Baogua was able to deal with it without any preparation, how could he not be able to deal with it if he was prepared in advance? Over the next few days, Wang Daoyuan took Zhao Baogua to visit several brokers, taking over Zhao Baogua's connections and supply channels in the oasis. In the future, there was no need for Zhao Baogua to show his face in Oasis. Although the scale of Green Willow region was far inferior to Clear Glass City, there were many spirit herbs and seeds sold here. Previously, he was in a hurry to receive Zhao Baogua's connections, so he didn't have the time to purchase them. Now that he had nothing else to do, he naturally wanted to buy some spiritual plants to enrich the variety of spiritual plants in the space of the Spirit Pearl. Wang Daoyuan activated the shop's defensive array and left the shop, heading towards the willow tree in the center of the market. The center of the market was still as lively as the day he came to Oasis. Thousands of itinerant cultivators gathered near the big willow tree. Although no one had calculated the exact number of itinerant cultivators in the 100 River Lake, there was an approximate number. There were about 4,000 to 5,000 itinerant cultivators in Oasis. At this moment, more than a fifth of the itinerant cultivators in Oasis were gathered under the big willow tree. Obviously, this was the absolute economic center of the 100 River Lake. This economic center was a bit simple and crude, mainly selling at street stalls. To Wang Daoyuan, the value of Green Willow Region Market was much higher than Clear Glass City. Clear Glass City was controlled by the underworld sect. The spiritual items sold were not very valuable, and almost no one sold living spiritual plants or spiritual beasts. Green Willow Region Market was different. They sold pills, talismans and other things that needed to be refined by cultivators. They mainly sold all kinds of natural spiritual items, but there were also many living creatures. He looked at a few street stalls. Although there were many living spiritual plants, most of them were not valuable. These spiritual plants did not have the qualifications to occupy the spiritual fields in the space of the Spirit Pearl. These itinerant cultivators did not have good days. He saw a stall with 6 wild ginseng. These wild ginseng seemed to be at least 400 to 500 years old. They had some spirit chi and could be considered unranked spiritual plants. In the mortal world, these were priceless treasures. Eating them could prolong one's life. But to cultivators, a few 100-year-old wild ginseng was not as effective as a spirit-gathering pill. Wang Daoyuan was a bit interested in these wild ginseng. Although he had no use for it, his parents could. Although there were many spiritual items in the space of the Spirit Pearl, Only spiritual grains were suitable for ordinary people to eat. Wild ginseng had the effect of prolonging one's life. In addition, as an unranked spiritual plant, its medicinal effect would be greatly increased. It was much better than spiritual grains. Planting some wild ginseng in the space of the spirit pearl and giving a few to his parents was a show of filial piety. The stall owner was a middle-aged cultivator at the 3rd level of Qi disciple. It was not easy for him to survive in Oasis with such strength. He also did not have the ability to get any good spiritual items. Therefore, his stall was mostly filled with unranked spiritual items. Only spiritual grains and a few other spiritual items were ranked. These things naturally did not attract many customers. It was good enough to have business. The stall owner gave a relatively good price. The 6 wild ginseng were bought for 3 spirit stones. After looking at a few more stalls, Wang Daoyuan found a blood-red stone in one of the stalls. The stone's shape was not very regular. It was the size of 2 people's heads and faintly emitted pure spirit qi. As a spirit talisman master, how could he not recognize this thing? This was a 2nd-level cinnabar ore. Such a large piece of ore should be more than 100 pounds. In addition, the quality was excellent. If it was used to make 2nd-level spiritual ink, it could produce at least 80 to 90 pounds of ink. 2nd-level spiritual ink, 1 pound could sell for 100 spirit stones. 80 to 90 pounds of spiritual ink, that was 8 to 9,000 spirit stones. Of course, this was the price of the clear glass market. In Oasis, because there were very few spirit talisman masters, even 2nd-level spiritual ink could not be sold for a high price. Moreover, this was only a cinnabar ore. It still needed to be processed into spiritual ink. To make spiritual ink, many spiritual items needed to be added. The production method and formula were all confidential. It was not something that could be obtained casually. The rogue cultivators of Oasis could only use this ore as a decoration. The Wang family had their own cinnabar ore. Talisman making was an important industry. Naturally, they had the method to make spiritual ink. He had already learned it. This piece of ore was of great use to him. When he had just broken through to the 7th level of Qi disciple, his spirit Qi was not enough to make 2nd-level spiritual talismans. After the Battle of Huiyen Mountain, he had obtained the doppelganger soul nurturing technique and the 5 elements mixed yuan technique. After a few months of cultivation, his spiritual sense and spirit Qi cultivation had greatly improved. He could already meet the requirements of making 2nd-level spiritual talismans. Now, his success rate of making 1st-level upper-grade spiritual talismans was more than 70%. This level had already surpassed 9th uncle Wang Zhida. Ordinary spirit talisman masters could make 1st-level upper-grade spiritual talismans with a success rate of 60%. They could then try to make 2nd-level spiritual talismans. The purple gold grass had already been planted. Now that he had encountered a 2nd-level cinnabar ore, he only needed to wait for the purple gold grass to multiply and he could make 2nd-level spiritual talismans. Since he had encountered this ore, there was no reason to let it go. This was a profit of a few thousand spirit stones. The stall owner was a 60 to 70-year-old cultivator. His cultivation was at the 4th level of Qi disciple. He had just walked in front of the stall when the stall owner greeted him warmly. "This Dao Yu, feel free to choose whatever you like. I have genuine goods at a fair price. I will definitely not deceive Dao Yu." Chapter 101. Wang Daoyuan glanced at the stall and saw 7 or 8 clear spirit grass on the stall. He asked, "How much are these clear spirit grass?" Clear spirit grass was the main ingredient for refining clear spirit pills. When he first discovered the space in the spirit pearl, he planted this spirit herb. The reason why he didn't ask about the cinnabar or but the most worthless clear spirit grass was to hide his true intentions and make it easier to bargain. When the stall owner saw him ask for the cheapest clear spirit grass, he was a little disappointed and replied, 1 spirit stone for 3 stalks. These clear spirit grass are 2 spirit stones. Dao Yu can take them all. Wang Daoyuan bought the clear spirit grass and paid the spirit stones. He glanced at the stall again and sighed. Dao Yu really has a complete set of spirit items here. Mutton fat jade, hematite, lapis lazuli. If I'm not wrong, this red stone should be cinnabar ore, right? After he finished speaking, he even picked up the cinnabar ore and weighed it in his hand. It was a little heavier than before, about 150 kilograms. With this purity and weight, It could be made into spirit ink that was about 50 kilograms. When the stall owner saw that he was interested in other things, he immediately became spirited and said, "Dao Yu has good eyesight. The names of these spirit items are not wrong at all. This cinnabar ore is a rank 2 spirit item. If sold in the clear glass market, 3 to 5,000 spirit stones would be nothing." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "If sold in the clear glass market, it would indeed be worth this price. But this is the Green Willow province. How many of us in the Green Willow province dare to go to the clear glass market? Besides, this cinnabar ore can't be eaten or drunk, and it can't be used to refine magic tools. It can only be used to refine spirit talismans, but that still has to be made into spirit ink. Many foundation establishment clans don't even know how to make spirit ink, let alone us rogue cultivators. I think this ore of yours is also a material for smashing your hands." The stall owner sighed and said, "Who says it isn't? People like us either committed crimes outside and escaped here and don't dare to go out at all. Or we were born in the Green Willow province and have lived here since young, never going out at all. No matter which one it is, it's extremely difficult to sell spirit items in the clear glass market. Besides, if they left the 100 Rivers Lake, there would be no more spirit boats. There were demonic beasts running amok along the way. With my little bit of cultivation, wouldn't I be courting death if I went out? What a pity about this ore. If I could get out of here, I would have made a huge profit. Dao Yu, I see that you have reached the late stage of qi refinement at such a young age. You have a bright future ahead of you. You should be able to walk out in the future. Why don't you buy this ore? I'll give you a discount." Wang Daoyuan felt a burst of excitement in his heart, but his face revealed an awkward expression. "I don't have any plans to go out for the time being. I have no use for this thing. I heard that some of the powers outside the Heavenly/Mountain range have opened shops in our oasis. Why didn't Dao Yu sell it to them?" The stall owner snorted and said discontentedly, "Those people who run these shops are not good people. They bully their customers and keep the prices too low. Many of Dao Yu's things were even snatched away by them. Unless they had a broker to introduce them, they wouldn't be taken advantage of. But those brokers aren't good people either. If you want them to introduce a buyer, you have to charge them an intermediary fee. A while ago, I asked that old fellow Gao Yuan to help me find a buyer for the Cinnabar Oregon. But he actually asked for half the price as an intermediary fee. He even threatened me and said that if I didn't go through him, the ore would just be smashed in my hands and it wouldn't be worth a single spirit stone. How can I take this? I would rather throw it into the river than let this dog take advantage of me." The stall owner was so angry that his face turned red. Wang Daoyuan couldn't tell if he was really angry or just acting. Wang Daoyuan sank into deep thought. From the stall owner's words, he heard some unusual information. These brokers were really influential. Furthermore, they had some kind of secret agreement with the shops opened by the outside powers. If the rogue cultivators didn't go through the brokers' channels, the shops would take away their spirit items. If they went through the brokers' channels and allowed the broker to earn an intermediary fee, the shops wouldn't deal with them. The shops of the outside powers were cooperating with the brokers. There was something shady going on. In Green Willow Province, who had the ability to suppress the outside powers? Without a doubt, it was only the few foundation establishment cultivators who established Green Willow Province's market. It was very likely that the higher-ups of Green Willow Province were involved. Otherwise, with just a few brokers, they wouldn't have the ability to suppress the rogue cultivators and the outside powers and make them cooperate. These brokers were very likely the representatives of the higher-ups of Green Willow Province. It seemed that when he wanted to buy the snow Ganoderma, he wanted to bypass the brokers and break the rules. Doing so would harm the interests of the higher-ups of Green Willow Province. Fortunately, he discovered the clues early. If he continued to do so, he would be dealt with sooner or later. Fortunately, he didn't let Gao Yuan suffer a loss when he bought the snow Ganoderma. Gao Yuan wouldn't report such a small matter, and there wouldn't be any future trouble. Of course, even if he reported it, such a small matter wouldn't be worth making a big fuss. Although these were just guesses, he would rather believe it than not. If the brokers were truly the representatives of the higher-ups of Green Willow Province, if he continued to do business without the brokers, he would be killed by the Foundation establishment cultivators sooner or later. He dared to bypass Gao Yuan before because he had full confidence that he could take down Gao Yuan. But if there was a foundation establishment cultivator behind Gao Yuan, he would be courting death. In the future, he couldn't play this kind of trick anymore. If he didn't handle it well, he would be provoking the Almighty. The stall owner looked at Wang Daoyuan for a long time and asked, "Dao Yu, what do you think? Do you want to buy this cinnabar or?" Wang Daoyuan came back to his senses and laughed. "I don't have any plans to go out now. If I buy this or and sell it at Clear Glass Market in the future, I don't know how long I'll have to wait. We cultivators take cultivation as our #1 priority. What's the point of spending spirit stones on a piece of broken rock?" When the stall owner heard this, he was a bit anxious. It wasn't easy to find someone who was interested in the cinnabar or. If this business was not successful, he would have to wait for the next buyer. Who knows how long he would have to wait? He hurriedly said, "Dao Yu, let's do it this way. I see that Dao Yu is an honest and considerate person. I'll sell this cinnabar or to you at a cheap price. Treat it as making friends with you." Wang Daoyuan pretended to be in a difficult position and said, "Then Dao Yu, how many spirit stones are you selling this or for?" Hearing this, the stall owner knew that he was interested and immediately offered a price. "How about 500 spirit stones?" This was the price that Gao Yuan gave him. He took it out to test the waters. Wang Daoyuan was very excited in his heart, but he still pretended to be angry. When the stall owner saw that the other party was not satisfied, he immediately changed his words. "Forget it, I have fate with Dao Yu. I'll sell it to Dao Yu for 300 spirit stones." Wang Daoyuan put away his angry expression and put on a difficult expression. The stall owner saw that he was still not satisfied and said, "I'll be honest with Dao Yu. I bought it for 200 spirit stones and have kept it for several years. It's at least 200 spirit stones and I can't go any lower." Wang Daoyuan reluctantly replied, "All right, 200 spirit stones it is. However, Dao, you have to take out something good to sell to me. Otherwise, I spent a lot of spirit stones and only brought back this piece of ore. The elders in my family will beat me to death." He took the cinnabar ore and put it into the space in his spiritual pearl. He then handed the 200 spirit stones to the stall owner. After selling the cinnabar ore, the stall owner took out a white jade box with a smile on his face and said, "Fellow Taoist, you've come at the right time. I just happened to receive some good things, but I don't know how many spirit stones they are worth. Dao Yu also knows the business, so I'll ask Dao Yu to take a look." The stall owner closed the restriction on the jade box and opened it a little. A fragrant smell rushed out. Chapter 102. Wang Daoyuan took a deep breath and felt the fragrance permeate into his internal organs. His whole body had an indescribable feeling of carefreeness. He closed his eyes and carefully sensed it. He felt that his spirit had increased 100 times and even the power of his divine sense had increased a little. Just by smelling it, the effect was stronger than meditating in the jade butterfly orchid. This fragrance not only had an effect on the soul, but also on the body. A rank 1 spirit item definitely did not have such a strong effect. The stall owner was also a smart person. In order not to attract attention, he quickly closed the jade box and smiled at Wang Daoyuan. "Is this thing worthy of Dao Yu's discerning eyes?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "Rank 2 low-grade spirit tea. It can improve the cultivation of the divine sense and also has some effect on the body. But I am not sure what effect it has. If this spirit tea was in the Clear Glass Market, people would rush to buy it for 500 spirit stones per tael. In the Green Willow State, 100 spirit stones per tael. What do you think, Dao Yu?" This was not like cinnabar ore, which was almost useless in the Green Willow State. It was the same everywhere. Therefore, he did not dare to lower the price too much. When the stall owner heard this price, he smiled and said, "Dao Yu, this price is a bit low. This is a rank 2 spirit tea. And it is a specialty of the Green Willow State. You can't find it anywhere else." A specialty of the Green Willow State? Wang Daoyuan was a little puzzled. Could it be the Hidden Cloud Tea? The Hidden Cloud Tea was a specialty of the Hidden Cloud continent of the 100 Rivers Lake. The Hidden Cloud continent was also an island of the 100 Rivers Lake. Unlike the Green Willow State, the Hidden Cloud continent was not a sand island but a small mountain range. In the early years, the Hidden Cloud Tea was spread all over the Hidden Cloud continent. Although its effect was very strong, it was not rare. But later on, Excessive harvesting caused the hidden cloud tea to become extremely rare. There were only some left in the depths of the hidden cloud continent. The hidden cloud continent was shrouded in clouds and mist. If a chi refining cultivator went in, even their divine sense would not be able to see beyond 10 steps. Although the hidden cloud continent only had rank 2 high-grade spirit veins, it was unlikely to breed rank 3 monsters. But some rank 2 monsters hid in the clouds and waited for an opportunity to sneak attack cultivators. Even Zifu realm cultivators could be attacked. Thus, the depths of the hidden cloud continent could be considered a forbidden area of the 100 Rivers Lake. Every year on the 9th day of the 9th month, the clouds would become very thin. Only now did people dare to go deep into the hidden cloud continent to pick the hidden cloud tea. However, a rank 2 spirit plant was located in the depths of the hidden cloud continent. How could there not be any demonic beasts eyeing it? Most of the rogue cultivators who went to pick tea also became food for the demonic beasts. The amount of hidden cloud tea that was brought out every year was no more than 1 caddy. There were also people who wanted to cultivate hidden cloud tea outside the hidden cloud continent, but without exception, they all failed. Because the production was extremely low, most of it fell into the hands of the few foundation establishment cultivators of the Green Willow State. Very few people in the outside world knew about the hidden cloud tea. Wang Daoyuan also learned about it from Zhao Baogua's memory. However, Zhao Baogua had only heard of it and had never seen it. Therefore, he did not immediately recognize the hidden cloud tea. It was only when the stall owner said that it was a specialty of the Green Willow Island that he realized that it might be the hidden cloud tea. The stall owner replied with a proud face, "It is the hidden cloud tea." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "That was rude of me. If it was the hidden cloud tea, even if it was 500 spirit stones per tael, it would still be sold cheaply. As far as I know, this hidden cloud tea is not something that ordinary people can get their hands on. I am ashamed that I have never seen this tea." The stall owner also understood the meaning of his words. He was doubting the authenticity of the hidden cloud tea. He was not angry, but smiled and said, "Daoyu's worries are understandable. However, my hidden cloud tea is indeed real." Wang Daoyuan became interested. "So, Daoyu found a tea tree in the periphery of the hidden cloud continent?" The stall owner waved his hand and said, "Daoyu overestimate me. I don't have that ability. Someone found a tea tree in the periphery of the hidden cloud continent and sold it to me. Since Daoyu knows the name of the hidden cloud tea, you should also know the characteristics of the hidden cloud tea. You only need to use your spiritual sense to find out." Because the hidden cloud tea grew in the clouds of the hidden cloud continent, it also had a little effect of interfering with spiritual sense. When using spiritual sense to explore, the tea leaves would appear and disappear, which could not be imitated. Wang Daoyuan used his spiritual sense to explore the jade box. Sure enough, the tea leaves had some interference with the power of spiritual sense. Under the detection of spiritual sense, the tea leaves would appear and disappear. Unfortunately, the tea leaves had been processed and were not alive. If they were alive, he could try to insert them into the space of the spirit bead. After processing, the value of the hidden cloud tea would not be great. He nodded and said, "Daoyu is not lying. This is indeed hidden cloud tea. But with so many tea leaves, it is only enough to make 2 or 3 cups. It is not much use to buy it." The stall owner continued to smile and said, "My friend who picked the hidden cloud tea is planning to pick it again after a while. If Daoyu is interested, I can introduce you to him. When that friend picks the tea again, Daoyu can also go with him." Wang Daoyuan thought for a while and felt that he could go. Even if he could not pick the hidden cloud tea, he could collect some spiritual objects that were not in the space. As for the possibility that someone might cheat him, he really did not care. He had not been in the oasis for long and did not show much wealth, so there would not be any foundation establishment stage cultivators eyeing him. Even if someone cheated him, at most it would be a peak chi refining stage cultivator. With his current strength, he could fight against an ordinary peak chi refining stage cultivator with only the 5 dragon soul chasing whip. Moreover, he could also use the mixed origin soul chasing whip. Of course, he could not use all 5 elements at once. He could only use 5 whips. Basically, no one below the foundation establishment stage could withstand it. Then he replied, "If I can go, I am naturally willing. Please help me contact Daoyu." The stall owner was very happy. Since Daoyu is willing, Give me 3 days. I will contact my friend. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, Thank you very much, Daoyu. I will come back in 3 days. After saying that, he turned around and left the stall, continuing to search for spiritual objects nearby. After walking a few steps, he saw something valuable on a stall. In the corner of the stall, there was an iron cage. In the cage, there were 5 snow-white chickens, 1 male and 4 females. The roosters had blood-red crowns, their tails were more than a foot long, and their beaks and claws were like white jade. He asked his clone to check the 10,000 Spirit Atlas and learned that this thing was called the Jade Bone Phoenix Tail Pheasant, a first-rank mid-grade or high-grade spiritual bird. The Jade Bone Phoenix Tail Pheasant was also a famous delicacy. It was not very helpful for cultivation, but the taste was superb. An adult rooster could be sold for 100 or 80 spirit stones. As for the hens, only rogue cultivators would be willing to sell them. Otherwise, who would be willing to sell them? The Jade Bone Phoenix Tail Pheasant was very suitable to be raised in the spiritual fields. It would not spoil the spiritual herbs and could also kill insects. Although the spiritual bead space did not need to kill insects, the clan's spiritual fields still needed them. If he bought these Jade Bone Phoenix Tail Pheasants and multiplied them in the future, he could add another dish to the clan's restaurant. In addition, the blood of the Phoenix Tail Pheasant could be used to make spiritual ink. Using the blood of demonic beasts to make spiritual ink had strict requirements for the type of demonic beast. This was because the blood of many demonic beasts had the attributes of the 5 elements. For example, the blood of the raging flame lion contained the fire attribute. The spiritual ink made from this kind of blood could only be used to refine fire attribute spiritual talismans. The spiritual ink had the fire attribute. Although it limited the types of spiritual talismans that could be refined, the fire attribute spiritual talismans refined would be stronger than the non-attribute spiritual ink. The blood of the Jade Bone Phoenix Tail Pheasant had no attribute, so the spiritual ink made from it could be used to refine first-rank spiritual talismans of all attributes. It could be used to replace the spiritual ink made from first-rank cinnabar. If he raised some in the space, he would not need to buy first-rank spiritual ink in the future. Chapter 103. Wang Daoyuan stepped forward and offered to buy the jade-boned phoenix-tailed pheasants. Perhaps it was because the actual value of this thing was not high, and it was difficult to sell in a place like the Oasis, so the stall owner's price was very realistic. 5 jade-boned phoenix-tailed pheasants were bought for only 50 spirit stones. After that, he did not continue to look for other spiritual items. If he spent too many spirit stones at once, it would be easy to be targeted. Anyway, he still had a long time to stay in the Oasis, so he was not in a hurry to spend a day or two. After returning to the Zhao General Store, Wang Daoyuan began to use the second-grade cinnabar ore to make spiritual ink. This was a delicate work, and his clone was a novice. He had not even made a first-grade spiritual ink before, so he could not leave it all to his clone. When he was learning how to make talismans at the Jade Spring Peak, he made a lot of spiritual ink. Later, because of his high level of making first-grade spiritual ink, Ninth Uncle gave him special treatment and taught him how to make second-grade spiritual ink. If not for that, he would not have been able to use this ore. To make spiritual ink with ore, he needed to first crush the ore and then grind it into fine powder. The finer the powder, the better. This process did not require any skill, so he could leave it to his clone. After that, he had to purify the ore powder and remove the impurities. The purification techniques were different from each other, and the amount of impurities was directly related to the quality of the spiritual ink. This required him to do it personally. After the purification, he had to add a few auxiliary materials and mix them with water. This could also be left to his clone. The main value of the spiritual ink production method was the purification technique and the auxiliary material formula. During the whole process, he had to ensure that the spiritual energy in the cinnabar was not consumed too much. Otherwise, it would be a big loss if the second-grade cinnabar could only make the first-grade spiritual ink. After 3 days, he finally made all the cinnabar ore into spiritual ink with the help of his clone. After tidying up, he left the store again and went to the stall under the big willow tree that wanted to sell him the hidden cloud tea. When he arrived, he saw a shifty-eyed middle-aged cultivator standing beside the stall owner. He was at the 8th level of qi refinement. When the stall owner saw Wang Daoyuan, he quickly introduced him. "The tea was sold to me by my friend. You can chat." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, I'm Zhao Yunxing. Greetings to Dao Yu. The middle-aged cultivator also cupped his hands and said, I'm Zheng Kong. Greetings to Zhao Dao Yu. Zhao Dao Yu has such a cultivation at such a young age. You are indeed a young hero. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, Dao Yu flatter me. This matter should not be discussed in public. Why don't the two of you follow me somewhere else? Zheng Kong had no objections. As for the stall owner, it was useless for him to go. It would also delay his business, so he tactfully declined Wang Daoyuan's invitation. Wang Daoyuan brought Zheng Kong to Zhao's sundry goods store, opened the array, and entered the store. Zheng Kong sighed and said, So Do Zhao owns a shop. I couldn't tell. I don't have the ability to take over the family business left behind by my elders. Wang Daoyuan said modestly, As for Dao Yu Zhang, if you have any good things in the future, you can come to me to sell them. I will definitely give Dao Yu a good price for all kinds of spiritual items. If Dao Yu wants to buy pills and talismans, we will give you a 20% discount. At this time, there was no broker present, so he was not afraid of leaking the information. Hearing Wang Daoyuan's words, Zheng Kang's face was full of joy. That's good. In the future, I will have to deal with Dao Yu Zhao Dao Yu. Please take care of me. Under the double pressure of brokers and shops, rogue cultivators always had good things, but they could not sell them for a good price. To have a business channel like Zhao's sundry goods store, they were naturally very happy. Wang Daoyuan asked, When will Dao Yu Zhao have time to go to Hidden Cloud Continent? Zheng Kong replied, The last time I went to Hidden Cloud Continent, I narrowly escaped death. This time, I need to be well prepared. Wang Daoyuan took out dozens of first-level high-grade talismans and more than 100 different kinds of pills. He said, What does Dao Yu Zhao need to prepare? Just tell me. Zheng Kong bought 5 talismans for attack, defense, and escape, as well as 10 pills for recovery, healing, detoxification, and so on. Wang Daoyuan gave him a 20% discount, which totaled less than 300 spirit stones. This price in Clear Glass City was a ripoff, but in Green Willow Continent, it was a good price. Zheng Kong bought so many life-saving items at a low price, so he was happy to see his teeth but not his eyes. Wang Daoyuan took out 5 fasting pills and said, These are fasting pills. 1 pill is equivalent to 5 caddies of spirit grains. Consider it my gift to Dao Yu. What else does Dao Yu Zhao need to prepare? Fasting pills were the simplest type of pill. They were refined by extracting the essence of spirit grains. Wang Daoyuan had the spirit pearl space, so whatever he wanted to eat, he could just ask his clone to prepare it. He did not care about fasting pills at all. If not for fasting pills having a market in Green Willow Continent, he would not have asked his clone to refine them. He gave Zheng Kong so many benefits, other than to let Zheng Kong go to Hidden Spirit Continent as soon as possible, it was also to stabilize Zheng Kong. He gave him long-term benefits. Even if the matter of Hidden Cloud Tea was a trap set by Gao Yuan, these benefits were enough to make Zheng Kong reluctant to kill him. After all, Gao Yuan was so stingy. How many benefits could he give? Zheng Kong took the fasting pills and thought for a long time. He said, Since Dao Yu is so sincere, then we will leave in 3 days, just the 2 of us. Dao Yu, what do you think? He naturally did not have any objections. He replied, Let's do as Dao Yu said. 3 days later, I will wait for Dao Yu in this shop. Zheng Kong said his goodbyes and left. Wang Daoyuan did not have anything to prepare. When he was cultivating in the Spirit Spring Cave, he also insisted on refining talismans every day. In addition to what he had seized from Zhao Baogua, he now had nearly 1,000 talismans and more than 800 level 1 pills. When he changed his cultivation method, he also learned a lot of spells. The commonly used Golden Sword technique, Earth Armor technique, and other spells. When used, the power had surpassed a level 1 upper grade talisman. The 5 elements escape technique was also cultivated to perfection. After all, escaping was the most important thing. The water dragon technique and smoke escape, the 2 family heirlooms, did not fall behind. At present, the water dragon he condensed had reached 6 feet long. The smoke escape condensed clouds, the diameter of which had reached more than 10 feet, and this was in a place where the water spirit chi was not very abundant. These 2 spells could not be used easily unless it was a last resort. It was too easy to be recognized. In these 3 days, he was still as usual, cultivating cultivation methods, spells, and refining talismans. 3 days later, Zhang Kong arrived as promised. The two did not talk nonsense. Directly at the southern end of the oasis, they found a ferry and took a spirit ship to the southeast. The hidden cloud continent was more than 400 miles southeast of the oasis. It was the second largest island in the 100 Rivers Lake, second only to the oasis. It was also the only mountainous island in the 100 Rivers Lake, unlike the other islands, which were piled up with sand and sand. The hidden cloud continent was an irregular polygonal island. The longest from east to west was more than 100 miles, and the widest from north to south was more than 50 miles. There were 20 to 30 small mountains on the island. The main peak was the Hidden Cloud Peak, which was more than 400 feet high. It was located in the center of the Hidden Cloud continent. Only on the 9th day of the 9th month would it reveal its true appearance. The Hidden Cloud continent was surrounded by clouds all year round, suitable for demon beasts to hide. If human cultivators entered, they would be easily ambushed. Therefore, among the several large islands in the 100 Rivers Lake, it was the only one without cultivators. Chapter 104. The speed of the ship was very fast, and before long, they could see a large cloud in front of them, covering the lake and the sky. As the spirit ship approached the northwest corner of the cloud, they could see some of the scenery on the edge. In front of them was a muddy beach, and there was a stream that flowed into the 100 River Lake. In the distance, they could faintly see reefs above the water, and nearby, they could see underwater reefs. No one lived in the Hidden Cloud continent, so there was no dock. With the underwater reefs, the spirit ship did not dare to get too close, and stopped a few miles away from the shore of the Hidden Cloud continent. The spirit ship leaned against a huge rock that was more than 3 feet high and 5 feet square. This was a transit station for the spirit ship's voyage, and the cultivators coming to and from the Hidden Cloud continent would also disembark here. Zhang Kong sent a sound transmission to Wang Daoyuan. "Daoyu Zhao, we need to swim the remaining few miles. There are many monster beasts lying in ambush underwater. Daoyu Zhao, if you have a breath-concealing technique or breath-concealing talisman, don't be stingy. Only by hiding your breath can you reach the Hidden Cloud continent alive. After entering the water, you must follow me closely. This place is a little far away, and even spiritual sense cannot detect you." Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "Thank you for reminding me, Daoyu." There were 10 or 20 cultivators on the spirit ship, and at this time it was not the time to enter the Hidden Cloud continent, so most of them went elsewhere. Only Wang Daoyuan and Zhang Kong got off the ship. After the two got off the ship, they did not delay and immediately used the water escape and breath-concealing technique to dive into the water. When cultivators used spells, they needed spiritual power to circulate through the body along a specific meridian. Therefore, when using 2 different spells at the same time, it was easy to cause a conflict between the spiritual power in the meridian, and it required more spiritual sense to control the spiritual power. Once the spiritual power went out of control, there would be a backlash from the spell, or even a cultivation deviation. Therefore, unless it was a last resort, cultivators would not use 2 different spells at the same time. However, simple spells like breath-holding spell and invisibility spell didn't run in the meridians and didn't conflict with most spells. Wang Daoyuan's appearance-changing technique did not rely on spiritual power, so it did not conflict with any spells. After the 2 of them entered the water, Zhang Kong used his water escape technique to the fullest extent, rushing straight towards the small stream in the Hidden Cloud continent. Wang Daoyuan's spirit qi was much stronger than that of the average level 8 qi refinement cultivator. Even if he was only using the ordinary water escape technique, it was effortless for him to follow behind Zhang Kong. In just a few miles, there were more than 10 waves of aquatic demon beasts blocking their path. The 2 of them were unable to advance in a straight line. They could only pass through the gaps between the demonic beasts. Being chased, Wang Daoyuan had no choice but to use the golden sword technique. He condensed a small golden sword and attacked a 10-meter-long catfish. Under Wang Daoyuan's control, the golden sword didn't go straight in. Instead, it slid past Catfish's body, leaving a 3-foot-long wound. Although the wound was very shallow and could only be considered a light injury, Catfish had lost quite a bit of blood. The eyes of aquatic demonic beasts were not very good. Compared to humans, their divine senses were also very weak. First-rank aquatic demon beasts mainly hunt by capturing auras and sensing disturbances in the water. At this time, Catfish had lost a lot of blood, and the smell of blood spread nearby. Wang Daoyuan and Zhang Kong used the breath-holding technique again. The aura they emitted was extremely subtle and couldn't be compared to the strong smell of blood. There were dozens of demonic beasts gathered in this area, and the lake water was stirred up. It was completely impossible to track the enemy by sensing the disturbances in the water. For a time, more than 90% of the demonic beasts gave up on the two of them and turned to attack Catfish. Catfish could become a demonic beast, so it was naturally not stupid. Seeing a group of demonic beasts surrounding it, it flicked its tail and turned to escape. As a result, most of the demonic beasts were taken away. The remaining few could not play a role in encircling them. The two of them quickly reached the shore of the hidden cloud continent. In order to get rid of the aquatic demon beasts, the two of them didn't go deep into the hidden cloud continent along the stream. Instead, they went ashore. Zhang Kong transmitted his voice. Dao Yu Zhao, we will follow the stream and go inside. You must follow closely. If I go into the water, you go into the water. If I go ashore, you go ashore. Don't hesitate. Wang Daoyuan did not transmit his voice and just nodded. The two of them used the breath-holding technique and divine walking technique. After running for more than 3 miles, Zhang Kong did not stop and directly jumped into the stream. Wang Daoyuan also followed suit. He jumped into the stream and used the water escape technique to follow behind Zhang Kong. After they entered the water for a few breaths, a wolf-shaped demonic beast appeared at the place where they entered the water. The wolf's nose was still on the ground sniffing. When it smelled the place where they entered the water, it looked around in confusion and walked away. After Wang Daoyuan followed Zhang Kong into the water, they traveled for 5 or 6 miles. Behind them, a group of fish began to chase. Zhang Kong jumped out of the water again and continued to run after going ashore. Wang Daoyuan also went ashore. The group of fish that was chasing them circled around for a while before dispersing. Wang Daoyuan secretly said, "This Zhang Kong is really a veteran." By going into the water, he got rid of the pursuers on the shore. By going ashore, he got rid of the pursuers underwater. In addition, the two of them used the breath-holding technique, so they left less scent in the places they passed. It would take a long time for demonic beasts to track them by scent. They were taking advantage of the time when the demonic beasts were searching for scent to hurry on. After switching between land and water several times, the two of them went more than 20 miles deep. Zhang Kong finally changed direction. He no longer followed the stream but turned to a small mountain. Walking forward and climbing halfway up the mountain, he found a gap between a large isolated rock and the mountain. It was big enough for one person to pass through. Without saying a word, Zhang Kong directly entered the gap. Wang Daoyuan took out a jade pendant and a few earth armor talismans and stuffed them in his clothes to prevent any sudden attacks. He also followed Zhang Kong into the gap. After entering the gap, they went through a narrow passage more than 10 feet long and came to an underground cave that covered an area of about 20 acres. There was a basin-sized skylight above, more than 20 feet from the ground. It could let in light, so the cave was not very dark. The cave was not flat. There were a few large stones on the ground. There were many first-grade spirit herbs growing around the stones. Although they were not precious varieties, there were still a few rare ones. Wang Daoyuan planned to transplant the spirit herbs that were not in the space of the spirit pearl after picking the hidden cloud tea. The hidden cloud tea tree was in the innermost part of the cave, close to the stone wall. It was a big tea tree that was half a foot in diameter and was taller than a person. Next to it were 2 small tea trees that were more than a foot tall, and only as thick as an adult's thumb. Above the tea trees, there was constantly water dripping down, watering the tea trees. Zhang Kong stopped a few feet away from the tea trees. Wang Daoyuan asked, "Why didn't Dao Yu come forward? Is there a demonic beast guarding it?" Zhang Kong smiled and said, "The last time I came here, there was indeed a first-grade high-grade demonic beast, but it was killed by me and my companions. There won't be any demonic beasts here in a short time." Wang Daoyuan was a little confused. Since there are no demonic beasts, why didn't Dao Yu come forward to pick it? Zhang Kang's smiling face became ferocious. He sneered and said, "If you pick it now, won't the tea be divided between 2 people? I asked Dao Yu to come here so that Dao Yu can help me clean up the demonic beasts along the way. Now that the hidden cloud tea is in front of us, does Dao Yu still want to divide the tea? Speaking of which, I have to thank Dao Yu. If it weren't for Daoyou's help, I would have to go through a lot of trouble to come here alone. You and my companions last time are both good people. I will remember you. Chapter 105. Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was not angry, but laughed. I am not a good person, but I think your character is not bad. You gave me 2 tea trees for free. Unfortunately, good people do not live long in Green Willow Province. If you think your companion from last time is a good person, then I will do a good deed and send you to see him. He understood the principle of villains die from talking too much. Before he finished, a golden sword talisman flew towards Zhang Kong. Zhang Kong took out a silver-white sword and chopped down the small golden sword. From the fluctuation of his spirit energy, Zhang Kong should be a metal-type cultivator. At this time, Wang Daoyuan had already activated the Earth Armor talisman on his body. 4 layers of earth-yellow armor covered his body. Zhang Kong pounced towards Wang Daoyuan with his sword. Wang Daoyuan immediately used smoke escape to dodge the attack. He took out the profound yang sword. Taking advantage of the fact that the smoke escape had not dissipated, he used the escape technique again. In a flash, he arrived in front of Zhang Kong and stabbed with his sword. Zhang Kong blocked with his sword and dodged the profound yang sword. In this exchange, Wang Daoyuan had a rough estimate of Zhang Kang's strength. He was much stronger than Xueqi, but slightly weaker than himself. Without using any trump cards, he could take him down with just the profound yang sword. At this time, Zhang Kong laughed. I thought it would not take much effort to kill a 7th-level Qi disciple. I did not expect you to be so capable. If I do not use my full strength, I will not be able to kill you. If you know what is good for you, hand over the talismans and pills, and leave behind your escape technique, I can let you go. Wang Daoyuan thought. So it was because I showed off my wealth when I sold him the talismans and pills that this guy remembered. He really has not seen the world. Is there a need to risk his life for something that he did not even take seriously? He was a full man who did not know the hunger of a hungry man. Dozens of talismans and over 100 pills could be sold for 2,000 to 3,000 spirit stones in Green Willow Province. Ordinary Qi disciple rogue cultivators could not earn 1,000 spirit stones by hunting demon beasts and risking their lives for a year. 2,000 to 3,000 spirit stones was 3 years of income. With 3 years of total income in front of them, only a minority would not be tempted. Zhang Kang's spirit power fluctuated violently, and then his aura continued to rise. He quickly reached the 9th level of Qi disciple, and there was no sign of it stopping. Finally, his aura stabilized at the peak of Qi refining stage. He sneered at Wang Daoyuan and said, "Kid, I'll take your life. You can only blame yourself for being too greedy and coveting my hidden cloud tea." Wang Daoyuan saw that his aura was no longer rising. He had just reached the peak of Qi refinement, which was incomparable to his 12th uncle Wang Shui. If Zhang Kong encountered the 12th uncle, he would probably be strangled to death by the water dragon technique. He heaved a sigh of relief and said, "You scared me to death. I thought you were a foundation establishment cultivator, but you're only at the peak of Qi refinement. Don't even think about leaving here alive today." Hearing his words, Zhang Kong said disdainfully, "Ignorant brat, boasting shamelessly. Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue?" Finished speaking, he pounced at Wang Daoyuan with his sword. Wang Daoyuan calmly put away the profound yang sword and took out the 5-dragon soul-chasing whip. At this time, Zhang Kong was already very close to him. He directly used the cloud escape to escape to the side. He turned around and whipped at the place where he was previously. A moment later, Zhang Kong just happened to pounce at his previous position, and the tip of his whip just happened to hit him. Zhang Kang's peak Qi refinement stage cultivation was not for show. He had been through life and death in the oasis for many years. His fighting instincts were still extremely strong. He heard the sound of the whip breaking through the wind and immediately waved his sword to block. With a crisp sound, the tip of the whip hit his long sword, and the long sword issued a buzzing sound. In this collision, neither of them suffered a loss. It could be considered a draw. Zhang Kong was not afraid. Instead, he greedily looked at the long sword in Wang Daoyuan's hand and said, "What a good treasure. I can't believe I can actually get a 2nd-level magic tool." He was too lazy to pay attention to this reckless guy. He lashed out with his whip again. Zhang Kong once again blocked the tip of the whip. The two of them went back and forth. After dozens of moves, there was no clear winner. Wang Daoyuan's gains were huge. Although he had been practicing the whip technique for a long time, he could be considered to have some achievements. But he had always been working behind closed doors. He had never used it in a real battle. This time, he met such an evenly matched opponent. After dozens of moves, his control of the 5-dragon soul-chasing whip had improved greatly. Zhang Kang's spirit energy was also very strong. After dozens of moves, he still maintained his peak state. But as Wang Daoyuan's whip technique became more and more proficient, the battle went from a draw to Wang Daoyuan having a slight advantage. Although Zhang Kang was slightly at a disadvantage, he did not panic. In the process of the two of them fighting, Wang Daoyuan had used the escape technique many times to dodge an attack. His spirit energy consumption was greater than his. Wang Daoyuan's cultivation had just entered Qi refinement stage 7 not long ago. He was at the peak of Qi refinement stage. In his opinion, if he continued to fight, the winner would definitely be him. He wanted to use Zhang Kang as a whetstone. Zhang Kang wanted to exhaust him to death. Ever since he left the mountain, the thing he was least afraid of was a battle of attrition. Now he had thousands of talismans and hundreds of bottles of aged scarlet blood wine in the space of the spirit pearl. Among them, there were 40 to 50 bottles that were nearly 40 years old. The two of them had no intention of changing the battle situation, so they continued to be in a stalemate. After 15 minutes, the two of them had exchanged nearly 100 moves. Zhang Kang was starting to doubt his life. He was at the peak of Qi refinement stage and his spirit energy was already running low. How could this kid in front of him still be in high spirits? He didn't even show any signs of fatigue. Although Wang Daoyuan's spirit energy was much stronger than cultivators of the same level, compared to Zhang Kang, who was at the peak of Qi refinement stage, he was still slightly inferior. Even if the 5-dragon soul-chasing whip saved spirit energy, his condition would not be better than Zhang Kang's. The reason why he was able to outlast Zhang Kang was because Wang Daoyuan would seize the opportunity to circulate his technique and recover a bit of spirit energy in between moves. When Zhang Kang pounced, he would use the cloud escape to escape and then counterattack. After all, this was an island in the middle of a lake. The island was also surrounded by clouds and mist. The water spirit energy was very dense. He used the cloud escape very little. Every time he recovered a few breaths of time, he would use the cloud escape to dodge. The amount of spirit energy recovered was slightly more than the amount of spirit energy consumed by the cloud escape. Relying on the advantage of the 5 spirit roots' rapid recovery, after 15 minutes, the amount of spirit energy he recovered was very impressive. At this time, he was not as relaxed as he looked. Circulating his technique for a short period of time and then stopping to use his escape technique consumed a lot of his spirit energy. If it wasn't for his strong spirit energy, playing like this would very likely cause him to lose control of his spirit energy and injure himself. Ever since he came out of seclusion, he had never faced an evenly matched opponent in a direct confrontation. This kind of risk was also to train his ability to face the enemy head-on and increase his own battle strength. In fact, he could also clearly feel that his condition was deteriorating. It was just that he concealed it better. However, his overall condition was still much better than Zhang Kang's. This kind of tactic of recovering spirit energy while fighting could only be used when the opponent did not have the ability to instantly kill him. If Zhang Kang had the ability to heavily injure him in one blow, he would very likely be killed directly if he diverted his attention to recover spirit energy during the exchange. As an experienced person, Zhang Kang was keenly aware that things were not quite right. If he continued to waste time, he would definitely be the one to die. Wang Daoyuan once again struck Zhang Kang with his whip, then stood in place and circulated his technique to recover his spirit energy. Zhang Kang did not rush over at this time. Instead, he put away his long sword and stood in place. The fluctuations of spirit energy around him became more and more intense. He was preparing for a big move. Naturally, he would not give Zhang Kang a chance and directly lashed out with his whip. Zhang Kang did not dodge. Instead, a golden light flashed out of his body and took the whip head-on. The power of this whip was also exhausted by the golden light and did not hurt Zhang Kang at all. Wang Daoyuan was a little surprised. He did not expect that a loose cultivator would have such a powerful technique. Just by accumulating spirit energy, he could take his attack head-on and come out unscathed. He thought to himself, "Since you are standing still, you are giving me a chance to test the power of 5 consecutive whips." The long whip in his hand quickly and continuously lashed out. In a little more than 3 breaths, He had lashed out 5 times. This speed was still a little slower than Xiao Baogua's half a breath's time. The 5 whips were about to explode. At this time, Zhang Kong had also finished accumulating spirit energy. A golden ball of spirit energy condensed in his hands and was about to strike. Chapter 106. The remaining spiritual power from Wang Daoyuan's 5 whips suddenly appeared, condensed, and burst out in an instant. At the same time, the golden spiritual power in Zhang Kang's hand condensed into a golden rock with a wingspan of more than 10 feet. The rock flapped its wings, and countless golden feathers flew out. The rock itself also pounced forward. The 5-colored spirit chi clashed with the golden rock, and both the rock and the spirit chi exploded. The spiritual power disappeared, and the golden rock was smashed to pieces. Most of the golden feathers were also shattered, and the broken golden feathers danced in the air. The golden feather struck the surrounding stone walls, leaving behind a series of cuts. Wang Daoyuan was also hit by several feathers, but he had 4 layers of earth armor on his body. When the feathers flew over, he cast the earth armor himself, so these feathers couldn't hurt him. Even so, 3 layers of the earth armor were broken. Each feather had half the lethality of the golden sword art. This was the result of the golden rock's phantom resisting the 5 whips, which reduced the power of the feathers. The power of this spell was much stronger than that of Wang Daoyuan's water dragon art. The water dragon art only condensed a stronger water dragon, and it relied on the water dragon to fight in close combat. However, this golden rock could actually shoot feathers to hurt people. Something condensed with a spell could actually cast spells. Zhang Kong, on the other hand, was too confident in his spell to use any defensive means at all. Fortunately, the feathers shot out by the rock all flew toward Wang Daoyuan. Otherwise, he would definitely be turned into a sieve by the feathers. However, he took the full brunt of the blast wave of the explosion. 2 spells comparable to the full-strength attack of an early-stage Foundation Establishment cultivator collided with each other. The power that erupted was enough to kill a Foundation Establishment cultivator. Zhang Kong didn't take any defensive measures and took the blow head-on. His body was directly sent flying by the blast wave and hit the wall. After landing, there were no signs of life. To be on the safe side, Wang Daoyuan still used the golden sword technique, aiming at the space between Zhang Kang's eyebrows. After more than 10 breaths, Zhang Kong didn't have any reaction. Only then did he relax and walk over. He directly threw Zhang Kang's body into the space of the spirit pearl and handed it over to his doppelganger to deal with. Just as he was about to pick the hidden cloud tea, cracks appeared on the stone wall that Zhang Kong had crashed into, and stones began to fall down. Wang Daoyuan lashed out with his whip and the stone wall shattered, revealing the space behind the stone wall. At this moment, a mountain-shattering tiger roar resounded. Wang Daoyuan felt his soul becoming unstable. This was at least the power of a second-order demonic beast. He was scared out of his wits. He immediately used the cloud mist escape and fled to the entrance. Without saying a word, he entered. Tiger demonic beasts were at least a few feet long and 6 to 7 feet tall. They definitely wouldn't be able to squeeze into the narrow part of the cave. He still had a chance to escape. After a tiger's roar, no tigers appeared even after a long while. At this moment, a tiger's roar rang out. However, this tiger's roar was not intimidating at all. Instead, it was a little cute. Wang Daoyuan probed with his divine sense and saw that there was also a huge cave on the other side of the stone wall. In the corner of the cave, there was a grass nest. In the grass nest, there was a white tiger that was 5 feet long. Behind its shoulders, there were 2 pieces of long hair that were shaped like clouds. Wang Daoyuan asked his doppelganger to check the All Spirits Atlas. He learned that this tiger was called Yun-Yi tiger. Yun-Yi tigers were second-order superior-grade demonic beasts. Only a few of them could break through to third-order inferior grade. The cloud-shaped long hair behind Yun-Yi tiger's shoulders could turn into 2 wings and fly with the wind. This was how Yun-Yi tigers got their name. However, this Yun-Yi tiger's abdomen had a few exaggerated scratches that went deep into its body. Its internal organs were seriously damaged. It should have been scratched by other beasts. Yun-Yi tiger's blood flowed everywhere. It was already at the point of exhaustion. On its head, there was a small Yun-Yi tiger that was 1 foot long. It crouched on its mother's head and let out a tiger's roar to intimidate Wang Daoyuan. However, This tiger's roar was really not intimidating. The tiger's roar just now should have been the tigress roaring with all her strength to scare away Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan walked over and stood in front of the grass nest. The tigress wanted to roar again, but she opened her mouth with great effort and did not make any sound. That tiger's roar exhausted all her strength. Now, the tigress did not even have the strength to raise her head. The tigress looked at the little Yun-Yi tiger and shed tears. Then, she looked at Wang Daoyuan with a pleading expression. Wang Daoyuan knew what she meant. He said with his divine sense, "Don't worry. I won't hurt the little guy. I'll even raise it." The tigress was at least a second-order demonic beast. Its intelligence was comparable to that of a 10-year-old child. Although she had never come into contact with humans and could not understand human language, she could still understand him using his divine sense to directly express his meaning. Her eyes were filled with gratitude as she looked at Wang Daoyuan. The little Yun-Yi tiger came down from its mother's head. The tigress wanted to lick it again, but she no longer had the strength. She stretched out her tongue forcefully, but she could not touch the little Yun-Yi tiger. Wang Daoyuan saw that the little Yun-Yi tiger was as thin as a match and its fur was dry. It must have been hungry for a long time. The tigress had lost all her blood, so it was impossible for her to feed it any more milk. Wang Daoyuan asked his clone to squeeze a bowl of milk for the long-eared rabbit. He took out a bowl of rabbit milk and placed it in front of the little Yun-Yi tiger's mouth. The little Yun-Yi tiger had been hungry for many days. If it was not a spirit beast, it would have starved to death long ago. At this moment, it could not care about anything else. It stuck its head into the bowl and drank greedily. In a short while, the big bowl of rabbit milk was empty. When the tigress saw that the little Yun-Yi tiger had something to eat, she revealed a gratified expression. After the last 2 drops of tears flowed out of her eyes, she closed them forever. The little Yun-Yi tiger seemed to have sensed something. It looked at the tigress and let out a mournful roar. Wang Daoyuan could not bear to sell the tigress's corpse anymore. He used the earth wall technique and condensed countless pieces of earth to bury the tigress in the nest. It could be considered the tigress's grave. He then found a stone slab and engraved the words, "Grave of little Yun-Yi tiger's mother" on it. He placed it in front of the grave. The little Yun-Yi tiger was still roaring mournfully. Wang Daoyuan could not bear to see it so sad. He kept it in the space of the spirit pearl and handed it over to his clone to take care of. After dealing with the 2 Yun-Yi tigers, he went to the entrance of the Yun-Yi tiger's nest. He moved a few stones and used the earth wall technique to condense the stones into a block to block the entrance of the cave to prevent people or demonic beasts from barging in. Then, he piled up the stone wall between the 2 caves and used the earth wall technique to condense it into a hole. Separating the 2 caves was conducive to hiding the hidden cloud tea. After doing all this, he began to deal with the 3 hidden cloud tea plants. It was said that the hidden cloud tea could not survive outside of the hidden cloud continent. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to transplant the 3 tea plants into the space. He chose a small tea plant that grew a little stronger and transplanted it into the space. For spiritual trees, the survival rate of small transplants was generally higher. If it could not survive after being transplanted into the space of the spirit pearl, there were still 2 tea plants here as backup. After that, he picked all the tender leaves of the 2 tea plants that had not been transplanted and put them in a box made of mutton fat jade. These tea leaves weighed 5 or 6 kilograms. Even if they were made into dry goods, it could still be more than 1 kilogram. This was not a small income. Then, he left the cave and moved a big stone to block the entrance of the cave from the outside. He used the earth wall technique to merge the stone with the mountain. Although the part adhered by the earth wall technique was not as strong as the original rock, it was still a stone and would not break easily. In this place with rich spiritual aura, after absorbing spiritual aura for several years, the stone condensed by the earth wall technique would be no different from the original rock in terms of strength. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.